Chapter 1628. Sect Leaders Order. The entire sect. Disciples at the Golden Core stage and above. Assemble in the North Square immediately. Sect Leader. The entire sect. Disciples at the Golden Core stage and below. Prepare for battle immediately. Commanding Elders. Please take your positions. Clang. 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 When Battle Sect's Grand Assembly bell rang out from inside the sect, tens of thousands of disciples swiftly returned to their positions according to the instructions issued by the command center. It was just that this wasn't a drill. This was a serious battle. Currently, Battle Sect, which was recognized as the #1 sect in the world, was actually going to take the initiative to fight. For a moment, all the disciples were in a daze. When the Battle Sect disciples came back to their senses, they were replaced by a strong sense of excitement. Although Battle Sect hadn't been established for a long time, all the disciples who joined knew that their sect had a strong foundation. This was definitely going to be a rich battle. A rich battle that they might not be able to wait for 8 lifetimes. It had to be known that in an era of peace, cultivation sects that were partially under the jurisdiction of the government had to be approved for such a large-scale assembly to prepare for war. The relationship between Battle Sect and Wuxia Alliance was inseparable. It was impossible for this large-scale operation to go unreported. If other sects declared war, there might be voices of doubt in society. But Battle Sect was different. This was a sect that had joined Wuxia Alliance, and represented Wuxia Alliance. So here was the question. Which force on earth was going to challenge Battle Sect now? Less than a quarter of an hour after the sect leader's order was issued, all the disciples in the sect had been gathered and started to work according to the original plan. Crispy Noodles, Dao Monarch and Keon were in charge of the command center. Since all the disciples at the Golden Core stage and above had been transferred out, it was impossible for the sect to be leaderless. With these 2 people holding the fort, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was naturally very reassured. Battle Sect's underground command center had been personally designed by Wang Ming, and it was full of high-tech déjà vu. A golden magic ball floated in the center of the command center. This magic ball was connected to every inch of Earth's coordinates, and was connected to Battle Sect's exclusive satellite with very little error. Most importantly, this command magic ball could determine the outcome of a battle from 1,000 li away, and see everything it wanted to see. Does the sect leader have any requests? Keon asked. He hadn't been in Battle Sect for long, but grenade-throwing Senior Immortal liked him very much. He was a very capable and practical person. Most importantly, he was a PhD in the field of war and cultivation weaponry. This kind of knowledge wasn't something an ordinary person could possess. Furthermore, he never asked too many questions, and only cared about completing the tasks that grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Audiobook had assigned him. This was something that Kun had a good impression of. It's best if we can capture them all alive, Crispy Noodles said. Capture them all alive? Corn frowned slightly. I know it's difficult, said Crispy Noodles, Dao Monarch. Keep the enemy's casualty rate below 1%. Of course, destroy all the enemy bases. Understood. Corn nodded solemnly. Right now, he could only try his best. He knew that the main reason why the higher-ups wanted to capture him alive was to find out what Lu Renfeng was up to. But to be honest, even a 1% casualty rate seemed to be very difficult. Because according to the information that Kun had gathered so far, the Battle Sect was not the only one in charge of fighting. Baiyu. Such a large-scale operation could be said to be like pulling one hair and moving the whole body. He didn't know Lu Renfeng, and had practically never heard of her before. This young Madame Phoenix seemed to be a little famous in the Cultivation Academy of Science, but in Kun's eyes, this Lu Renfeng was just an unlucky egg. Less than 10 minutes after Battle Sect's sect leader order was issued, this matter was further amplified through the spread of modern information on the internet. There were a lot of sects that received orders to assist in battle, and one of them was the Skylight Alliance, which had previously tried to unite but had in fact failed miserably. For a previous story, see Chapter 819. Before Battle Sect had been established, the 17 sky-level sects in the Alliance had protected each other and blocked the advancement of the sects behind them. On the day Battle Sect had opened for business, President Liu Yuming of the Alliance had been under tremendous pressure and had tried to make things difficult for them, but in the end, he had failed. Especially after learning that Battle Sect's backer was Wuxia Alliance, Liu Yuming had almost had the urge to stab himself to death. Since Battle Sect's existence had broken the long-standing balance of order between Wuxia Nation's sects, the alliance had long since ceased to exist in name. On the surface, they were still united as one family. But in fact, there were some problems with each sect's operations. A few days ago, many sect leaders had been unable to withstand the pressure, and had wanted Lu Yuming to represent them in negotiating a partnership with Battle Sect. But after all, he had done such a shameful thing, and Lu Yuming himself was at a loss. But what Lu Yuming hadn't expected was, today, the alliance had actually received a battle invitation from Battle Sect. Overwhelmed by the favor, Lu Yuming immediately gathered all the sky-level sect leaders of the alliance. Everyone, what do you think of this? Lu Yuming asked. Given Battle Sect's power and heritage, why would they need our help in battle? This is clearly for the sake of building momentum. I'm afraid it's for others to see. Leaping Sect's sect master analyzed. Since Battle Sect's rise, everyone's sects have been more or less affected. To be honest, in the past, I definitely wouldn't have gone. But for the sake of my livelihood, I think it's worth a try. Radish King sect leader Sun Honja said, I heard from others in the circle that sect leader Grenade Throwing has always been a righteous person. Now that he has reached the true venerable stage, he doesn't seem to be a petty person. I will definitely accept this olive branch. Even if you guys object, I will still go. Brother Sun, there's no need to be in such a hurry. We didn't say we won't go. Then what do you all mean? Go. Go now. At this point, all the sect leaders spoke up, their emotions stirring. Lu Yuming saw this and already had an idea in his heart. Then it looks like none of the sect leaders present have any objections. Now, let's start counting the number of Golden Core Stage and above disciples of our 17 sky-level sections. Currently, we have gathered our 17 sky-level sects, with a total of 36,000 Golden Core Stage and above disciples. According to Battle Sect's battle invitation, all sect leaders, please lead your sect's Golden Core Stage and above disciples to gather in the northern suburbs at 10 o'clock tonight. After Lu Yuming finished, the remaining 16 sect leaders all stood up, cupped their fists and said in unison, We will obey your orders. Rush to Battle Sect's aid. The scale of this group battle was so grand that it caused people to be flabbergasted. Lu Yuming had originally thought that Battle Sect and their 17 sky-level sects were already the limit. However, after Lu Yuming accepted the battle invitation and assigned the mission, he joined the Battle Sect 1225's temporary command group chat. Only at this moment did he suddenly realize that things were not as simple as he had imagined. Because, in this temporary command group, more than half of his friends in the cultivation world had already joined. These people were all sect leaders from all over the world, both at home and abroad. At this time, the number of people in the group was still soaring. 5 minutes after Lu Yuming joined the 1225 command group, there were already 270 sect leaders of Earth level and above sects gathered in the group. Chapter 1629. At the same time, on Sun Island. The Jiugong family. The Jiugong family had successfully completed the Sun Island Student Exchange Program between No. 60 High School and Kyushu High School. Now that the Jiugong family had annexed Sun Island's largest underworld gang, the Star Picking Group, and had a deep strategic partnership with Huagua Water Curtain Group behind them, they were truly like the sun at high noon. In the main hall of the Jiugong family, the news that Lotus Sun had been captured by the young phoenix had reached them. Head of the family, Jiugong Akaji, was furious. What? Miss Lotus Sun was captured? How preposterous. Who on earth is this young Madam Phoenix? She must have eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's gall. Father, please calm down. Hideki said, according to the information our Jiugong family has gathered from the Sun Island Grey Sect branch, this young Madam Phoenix is an underground scientist who has been targeted by the International Alliance of Cultivators for a long time. She's very famous in the underground scientific community for conducting inhumane and immoral scientific experiments. Hearing this, Jiugong Akaji frowned slightly. Somehow he felt like he had heard of this before. Father, Huaxiao Alliance has already dispatched people from Battle Sect. I think we should, even if we don't do anything. But we can't not do it. Jiugong Akaji said, our Jiugong family and the Sun family are now working closely together. Even though our Jiugong family did not receive a battle invitation from the Battle Sect this time, how do you know that this is not a test? Hearing this, Hideki was suddenly enlightened. Father, do you mean that Battle Sect deliberately didn't send us an invitation? That's very likely. Jiugong Akaji nodded. Given the relationship between Battle Sect and the Sun family, they should know that our Jiugong family has already established a partnership with Huaguo Water Curtain Group. So this time, it seems like they're testing our attitude. Saying this, Jiugong Akaji couldn't help laughing. Actually, even if they hadn't been testing, he would have taken action. After all, he, the head of the Jiugong family, had already joined the Grey Sect. Now that his sect leader was in trouble. He was a heretic. How could he not save him? It was just that it might be too late to send someone over from Sun Island now. If they were too late, they wouldn't be able to express their loyalty in time. Immortal Harmony. Jiugong Akaji called the name of the head steward of the Jiugong family. Luminous Immortal Harmony heard this and immediately stepped forward. Subordinate is here. Tell them to use all the connections our Jiugong family has in Huaxiao Nation that we can use, said Jiugong Akaji. In fact, in order to expand the Jiugong family's business in Huaxiao Nation, they had already set up a base in Huaxiao Nation for many years. Regarding this point, Immortal and Ming, as the head butler, naturally knew about it. However, he was worried that this was not enough. I know what you're thinking. Are you worried that the connections we can find are limited? Sitting cross-legged on the tatami, Jiugong Akaji said, when Senior Li Xian came to visit us, he said that he was entrusted by Mr. Jin Deng to update the main ghost record of our Jiugong family, strengthen the seal, and give him a talisman outside the ghost record. As long as you have this talisman, you can freely control all the evil spirits recorded in the ghost list. There's such a thing? Immortal Harmony and Jiugong Xiushi looked at each other in dismay. They were completely unaware of this matter. At this time, Akaji Kuya suddenly laughed. Who said that only cultivators can come to the rescue? Now, we can freely control the ghosts recorded in the ghost register. Clan head, you mean? Luminous Immortal Harmony was stunned. Let Yoshiko go and set an example for the Kumiya family, Akaji said. When number 60 High's group left the island for me, he had entrusted Li Xian to hand over the ghost talisman to Ryoko Kamiya. Indeed. Because of their transnational connections, the Jiugong family's connections in Huaxiao Nation were indeed limited. Especially in a battle of such a grand scale, they might only be a drop in the ocean. However, it would be a completely different story if he could summon the dead ones. Madame Feng Chu would never have thought of this. The people who had come to encircle and annihilate him this time. Not only were there living cultivators gathered by various forces. The Jiugong family was also the representative. 100,000 Yin soldiers. To be honest, when Keon had joined 1,225's temporary command group, he had also been shocked by the number of people in the group. In such a short period of time, so many sky-level and earth-level sect leaders had actually gathered to come to the rescue. This was something that Keon had never expected. Now, he would actually have to command these people to fight. Looks like a lot of people have gathered. Senior Immortal's reputation in the circle is indeed very high. Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch looked at this scene with an indifferent expression and smiled. How about it, Mr. Keon? Can you handle it? At that moment, Keon stood in front of the command platform, his whole body trembling. It wasn't because he was afraid, but because he was excited. It had been a long time since he had felt this kind of blood-boiling feeling. War was an art. As the commander of this battle, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had full trust in him, and he naturally had to do his best. After a long while, after taking a deep breath, Keon finally spoke in a powerful voice, which was accurately transmitted to everyone's minds through the core sound output system inside Battle Sect. Everyone involved in this encirclement and annihilation of the young Phoenix could hear Keon's voice. Everyone! I am Keon, the commander-in-chief of this encirclement and annihilation of the young Phoenix. I'm very honored to be fighting alongside all of you this time. The target of our encirclement and annihilation this time is that underground scientist who has already been wanted for a long time, Madame Phoenix. Huaxiao Alliance has been keeping an eye on her for a long time, but because Miss Lotus Sun was captured this time, they had no choice but to close the net early. In this encirclement and annihilation, your mission is to rescue Miss Lotus Sun. Capture everyone in the young Phoenix's laboratory alive, including Madame Phoenix. In addition, you also need to do your best to help gather evidence of Madame Phoenix's crimes. This time, this encirclement and annihilation. There are no feints. All the sect leaders participating in this operation will be the main attackers. Once you arrive at the agreed location, Please act according to our command center's instructions. May your immortal luck prosper. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Loopy Toad had temporarily returned to the top of the holy pillar in the demon world through Lord Ma's power. It was as if Holy Envoy Shen Wuiyue had already guessed that Loopy Toad would come, and had been waiting here for a long time. The corners of his mouth curled up. You're already a divine beast. Why do you need our help? Cough cough, even if I'm a divine beast, I still have to keep a low profile. Besides, even if I become a divine beast, my heart is still focused on the development of my hometown. Loopy Toad said, What, you're not willing to help? No, Lord Second-Generation Demon Saint and I are naturally willing to help. Shen Wuiyue shook his head and said, Now that the demon world and the human world have turned hostility into friendship and will work together in the future, this is indeed a heaven-sent opportunity to show our attitude. Of course, the key is still to give Ling Zhenren face. Interesting. Loopy Toad said, Then, how many people can the demon world send? You can have as many as you want. At that moment, Shen Wuiyue held the magic ball in his hand and tossed it into the air. A dazzling map of the demon world appeared in front of Loopy Toad. He looked at Loopy Toad and said, In the demon world, 96 outer territories, 8 middle territories and 4 inner territories, a total of 108 territories, are ready and awaiting your orders. So big. Loopy Toad was surprised. Don't you like big things? Shen Wuiyue laughed. Oh, that's right. Let me tell you one more thing. Loopy Toad? ? Shen Wuiyue. I've already joined the Grey Sect. Loopy Toad. Chapter 1630. At that moment, Lotus Sun was focused on collecting evidence of Madame Phoenix's crimes, and had no idea that an earthquake had already broken out outside Songhai City. With Battle Sect as the core, all the cultivators who had been summoned to form an alliance army were on their way to outflank Phoenix's laboratory in the northern suburbs. Naturally, it was impossible for such a large-scale operation to be completely hidden. At most, they could control public opinion at the very beginning, but in the end, it would definitely explode on the internet in an unstoppable manner. As one of the core teams in Phoenix's laboratory, the intelligence department's mission was naturally to keep an eye on any movement online. Hang Chuan, the chief of the intelligence department, immediately received the news through his headset, and immediately reported to Lu Renfeng. Madam, there seems to be a lot of strange news online today. Let's hear it. Someone saw a lot of cultivators from various sects marching through the downtown area on swords in a very neat formation. Interesting. Lu Renfeng cupped her chin in thought. Did you find out what they're doing? I heard that Battle Sect is organizing the Alliance Army for a drill. Drill? Yes, but this is just hearsay at the moment, and there's no substantial evidence. We're still trying to understand the situation. Before that, to be on the safe side, should Madam? No need, it's just a drill. It's just a drill. Lu Renfeng's expression gradually turned crazy. I've been waiting for this day for too long. I don't want to waste even a second. But madam, there are still risks. No need to say more. Lu Renfeng waved her hand. If Battle Sect's Alliance Army is really coming for our base in the northern suburbs, they wouldn't be so ostentatious. Also, they think too highly of me, Lu Renfeng, to make such a big fuss over a little girl. After saying that, this crazy woman glanced at Sun Yinger, who was pretending to be Jiang Yingying. Girl. Relax. Even if these people are really here to save you, it's useless. No one can save you now. Lu Renfeng said with a smile. Shortly after, she walked to an extremely high-tech door. Hang Chuan, you and Zhang Sen can come with me. Madam, that's a restricted area. You never let us in. The chief of the intelligence department was overwhelmed by the favor. He hurriedly lowered his head, looking at a loss. Don't worry, everything will be over soon. The intelligence department is my trusted aide. Since you're working under me, you need to know some things. She said meaningfully and glanced at Sun Yinger. Little girl Jiang, perhaps you should thank me after this is over. Because in this world, only I, Feng Chu, am able to free you from pain. Lotus Sun and Sun Yinger were baffled by his words and didn't understand what he meant. But from the moment they had entered this underground base and gathered all the intelligence, Lotus Sun could basically conclude that Jiang Yingying wasn't as simple as they had imagined. Although she was adopted by Marshal Jiang, Her background seemed to be extraordinary. She was not an ordinary orphan, but some special existence. Lu Renfeng led the way in front. The four of them were passing through a long glass tunnel. The glass cabinets on the side were filled with all kinds of spirit beast organ specimens. Under the dim light, they looked a little creepy. "You crazy woman, what do you mean?" Sun Yinger tried to get information from Jiang Yingying. "Haven't you noticed that your body is getting worse and worse?" Lu Renfeng didn't directly answer Sun Yinger's question, and instead asked a question of her own. "It seems a little," Sun Yinger replied. Her body was indeed getting worse, but the main reason was because of Wang Ying. The side effect of using the planetary blockage spell too much was back pain. There was nothing she could do about it. "That's right," Lu Renfeng said. "Because your body isn't very compatible with the man-made spirit root of the first generation." Man-made spirit root? Lotus Sun and Sun Yinger were both stunned. It wasn't that Lotus Sun didn't know about man-made spirit roots. In the current cultivation world, the strength of a spirit root represented one's future talent. A long time ago, in order to give birth to children with excellent spiritual roots, some cultivators would often take the extreme route, which was to consume a lot of tonics during pregnancy so that when their children were born, their spiritual roots would reach a high level. But the effects of supplements were actually very limited. Thus, a few decades ago, the topic of man-made spirit roots had become a hot topic. If a child with mediocre spirit roots at birth could reach the level of an outstanding cultivator through man-made spirit roots, then this technology would become a ready-made money printing machine, which would dominate both the current and future markets. In the beginning, research teams from various countries conducted experiments on spirit beasts by studying the spirit roots in their bodies. But in order to make breakthroughs as quickly as possible, some scientists began to purchase slaves on the black market to provide lab rats for their own laboratories. The progress from thousands of experiments on spirit beasts might not even be as much as the progress from one experiment on a real cultivator. When this matter was exposed back then, it caused a worldwide uproar. Lotus Sun hadn't expected that this was what this young Madame Phoenix had been researching all along. But now, experiments on man-made spirit roots had been proven to be against human morality, and had long since been banned. The more she listened, the more she felt that there was something wrong with Lu Renfeng's words. Wait a minute. The spirit root in Jiang Yingying's body was actually man-made. Lotus Sun's expression was one of astonishment. Back then, in order to create this man-made spirit root, I used a lot of materials obtained from different secret realms to synthesize spirit roots. I used different materials and formulas. Then, I implanted these spirit roots made from different materials into the bodies of selected babies. And you were one of those children. The crazy woman paced back and forth with her hands clasped behind her back as she said, as if talking to herself, "Later, I ordered people to scatter those children and look for cultivator families to adopt them. I wanted to see how long those children could live." At this point, Lu Renfeng stopped walking. She turned around and looked at Sun Yinger. Reaching out with her sinful hand, she pinched Sun Yinger's chin and said, "There were 462 children in that batch. And you were the only one who survived." Not only did this young Madame Phoenix not feel the slightest bit guilty about what she had done back then, she was even brimming with pride. She looked at Sun Yinger and continued, "Cultivation science has always been accompanied by sacrifices. The spirit root in your body now is the correct formula for man-made spirit roots. Moreover, a small part of the materials used to make your spirit root are also things from that secret realm. As long as I extract the spirit root in your body and analyze it again, I can easily decipher the password to open the back door of that secret realm. Do you know what this means? It means that I can remove all the materials used to create man-made spirit roots from that secret realm. I will become the first person in history in this field." Hearing this, Lotus Sun involuntarily clenched her little fists. What kind of crazy woman was this? She was simply a she-devil. She continued to speak like a demon. "Jiang Yingying, when I saw you back then, you were only the size of a cabbage. You were frail and sickly. There was no way you could have lived to this age. It was my man-made spirit root that saved you. And now, it's time for you to repay me. Isn't it?" Chapter 1631. The large-scale rescue operation had been very powerful. In addition to the allied army of cultivators, there were also some big-shot cultivators hiding behind the scenes. For example, Li Xian and Zhang Zidon. To put it bluntly, both Li Xian and Zhang Ziden felt that they were at least somewhat responsible for this incident. If they had handled things more decisively, with just the two of them, they might have been able to directly find Madame Phoenix's nest and flatten this madwoman's base. They wouldn't have had to trouble Miss Lotus Sun to do it herself. Li Xian and Zhang Ziden were well aware of the relationship between Lotus Sun and Wang Ling, and thus felt deeply ashamed. Looking at all the evidence, the thousand-faced man they were after was definitely connected to this young Madame Phoenix. In other words, this young Madame Phoenix wasn't as simple as she looked. For a technique like the thousand faces aberration, where even the faces they saw were different, the strength of the person behind it must be unfathomable. If one were to use this as a basis for inference, then there would be two results in front of them. First, there was an ancient powerhouse working under Madame Feng Chu. The second was that the person with the thousand-faced divine ability was Madame Phoenix herself. This Lu Renfeng is just an earth cultivator. Which ancient person would take a liking to her? Unless she was hit by a meteorite and lost her memory, there's no way she would be influenced by an ordinary earth cultivator like her, Zhang Ziden said as he sipped on his iced latte in the Daybuck Cafe. The ancient person he mentioned was an abbreviation for an ancient expert. It was also a term that Zhang Ziden had recently picked up from the internet. Nowadays, it seemed very popular among young people to sum up a certain type of person as XX person. For example, Zuan person, book changer, Kushuan will die if you don't curse for a day. Zhang Ziden thought it was very interesting, so he picked it up in passing. In the end, he realized that it went quite well, and Li Xian was also successfully led astray. Although I don't think an ancient person would work for an earth cultivator like Lu Renfeng, the problem is, isn't Ling Zhenren also an earth cultivator? After Li Xian said this, Zhang Ziden opened his mouth, but was suddenly struck speechless for a moment. Yes, Wang Ling was very strong. He was so strong that they couldn't even imagine or measure him. But Wang Ling was indeed a genuine earthling. Furthermore, they were born from two earthlings who hadn't even reached the foundation establishment stage. This was something they didn't really believe in. It was not until Wang Nuan was born that Li Xian and Zhang Ziqin completely accepted the fact. Who would have thought that a little girl who had just been born on Earth would be as strong as a monster? She could hang them up and beat up two ancestor-level experts. In that case, even if the probability is low, it's not completely impossible, right? Zhang Zi snickered. In comparison, the fact that he, Lu Renfeng, and the thousand-faced man were the same person became much weaker after their discussion. If she, Lu Renfeng, was a primordial immortal, she would definitely not be interested in the arcane realms on Earth, even if Earth has been upgraded. Zhang Zi snickered. There are many factors in the formation of a secret realm. To put it simply, it's like a jar of old wine. The older it was, the more valuable the mystic realm would be. In the boundless Milky Way, there are countless secret realms that have not been explored for a long time. How could the secret realms on Earth be worth their attention? I agree. Li Xian nodded and said, Lu Renfeng only explored the secret realms for money. Her vision is still not as good as that of the primordial immortal. In the end, we are in different realms. Back then I was also seeking money, but I had my reasons. Zhang Zi snickered at this time. Why do you say that, Brother Ziqin? Money is evil. I just take these sins into my own hands and bear them silently. Zhang Zi sighed. If I don't go to hell, who will? Li Xian. About 2 minutes later, Zhang Zi snickered, finished the last mouthful of coffee in his hand and immediately got up. Let's go, Brother Li Xian. Let's put an end to it together. Okay, Li Xian said seriously, but how are we going to get in? This time, the Alliance Army has a unified command and a symbol of allies. We don't have anything. Isn't it inappropriate to go in like this? There's nothing inappropriate about it. Zhang Zi snickered suddenly. Aren't we just enthusiastic citizens passing by? So that was it. At this moment, Li Xian suddenly understood. While Li Xian and Zhang Ziqin were preparing to set off, in Songhai First Prison, the three-man mahjong team led by General Bai was also launching a new round of operations. Because this was a free opportunity to earn points. As long as they participated in the Alliance Army, they would earn points. Of course, if they could render meritorious service in this operation, they would earn extra points. All three of them had been sentenced to more than 1,000 years. Naturally, they wouldn't miss this opportunity to earn points to offset their sentences. Was that Miss Sun arrested? After General Bai told them the ins and outs of the matter, the three-man team felt that it was inconceivable. They had only heard about it from the prison guards and knew that there was a large-scale Allied army operation in Songhai City. They had thought it was just a drill, but now that they were in General Bai's car, they understood why on earth this large-scale Allied army was here. To tell the truth, the three people in the mahjong team were a little taken aback. "Do the three of you have any impression of Lu Renfeng?" General Bai asked at that moment. After all, the three people sitting in the car at that moment enjoyed top-notch caretakers in Songhai First Prison. Most importantly, they had previously been leaders of underworld forces, so they couldn't be any more familiar with the dark network and other underground organizations. "Are you talking about Lu Fengchao?" the old devil asked. "That's her," General Bai asked. "Why, are you familiar with her?" "We don't have any business dealings. I just saw her in an underground human trafficking market," the old devil said. "I still remember that she and another person were fellow disciples. The other person was nicknamed Crouching Dragon. But compared with her, this Crouching Dragon is indeed very low-key." "Do you mean they have a Shifu?" "Yes. But my venerable self doesn't know much about who that Shifu is." General Bai cupped his chin in his hand and pondered for a moment. Feng Chao's underground laboratory in the northern suburbs was already under the control of the Alliance Army, and the encirclement had been formed. Lu Renfeng couldn't escape now. Apart from capturing her alive, the higher-ups had instructed them to collect as much evidence as possible. Now that they had set out a little too late, it wouldn't be advantageous for them to intervene head-on. Thus, when General Bai heard this, he suddenly felt that he and the mahjong trio might be able to think differently. "Do you know where this underground human trafficking market is?" he asked at that moment, raising his head. "These people are all cunning. Even if I give them the address, they might have already changed it," the old devil said. "If there's no one there, wouldn't it be a wasted trip?" "There are always clues," General Bai said. "You've done a great service." The old devil immediately replied, "In Winter City." "Winter City?" Master of Immortal Mansion Chang Yu was blank. Back then, the entrance to his immortal mansion had been in Winter City. Come to think of it, that was where his dream had begun. Chapter 1632. Now, people from all sides set off in different directions. Some surrounded the place, some built momentum, and some collected evidence. There were actually quite a few enthusiastic citizen groups like Zhang Zizi and Li Xian. They didn't do it for fame, but for the light of righteousness, and only wanted to contribute that light and warmth in their hearts. Of course, the vast majority of them were Great Church disciples. After all, their leader had been abducted. How could they not save him? Of course, most of the Grey Church disciples were still students and didn't have the ability to stop the rescue, but they could still stop a large-scale attack on public opinion online. For a time, a lot of dirt on Lu Renfeng was exposed online. There had always been a lot of rumors about Madame Phoenix, but in the online environment, many things were half true and half false, and no one would really believe them. But sometimes, as long as public opinion was focused, it didn't matter if it was true or not, it would become true. The passers-by were labeled as old fence-sitters. As long as 7 out of 10 people said it was true, they would believe what they believed in no matter what the truth was. This was also why in the current online environment, when it came to some unconfirmed news, you'd find that the people who started cursing and the people who apologized later were the same people. Those who apologized weren't bad, but more people chose to remain silent after the tables were turned. The internet was like a mask. When one's true face was covered by the mask, all the hideous and ugly expressions would be covered by the mask. Logically speaking, with such a huge uproar online, if Lu Renfeng had been a little more observant, she might have realized that she had caught the wrong person. Unfortunately, Madame Phoenix was still too anxious. She firmly believed that the person she had caught was Jiang Yingying herself. Without stopping, she led Lotus Sun, Sun Yinger, and the intelligence department's chief into the forbidden laboratory. This was a secret laboratory space that Lu Renfeng had specially opened up, and only she had the highest authority. As soon as the intelligence department's chief, Hang Chuan, entered, he found that the signal in his headset had been blocked. He didn't know that the internal intelligence department of the laboratory was currently in chaos. In Hang Chuan's absence, the intelligence department was a group of dragons without a leader, and they couldn't directly break into the forbidden laboratory to tell Lu Renfeng the truth. The internet says that we caught the wrong person? Wrong person? No way. Zhang San has never failed before, so how could Zhang Yingying and Lotus Sun not tell the difference? Look at the news online. I don't think it's fake news at all. This. I have to tell Madam quickly. Where is Madam now? Forbidden Laboratory. Madam has already entered the Forbidden Laboratory. Ugh. It's over. Inside the restricted laboratory, Lu Renfeng pointed at a bed in front of her. Come, classmate Zhang, lie down. The expression on the madwoman's face was as calm as an ancient well. I advise you to be more obedient. I've always been very fast. Moreover, the amount of anesthetic is enough to make you die without any pain. Sun Yinger never thought that she, the master of the void, would have to lie on the operating table one day. Your scalpel is not sharp. What if you can't cut it open? Sun Yinger sighed. She was surprisingly cooperative and did not struggle or resist. She just lay down. Her obedience surprised Lu Renfeng. I thought you would struggle a little. I didn't expect you to be so cooperative. You're a good kid. I didn't waste my efforts to save you all those years ago. Heh, you don't have to say such pretty words. You've killed so many innocent people in order to develop an artificial spirit root. You just happen to be lucky enough to get the thing in my body. Do you really think you're that good? Sun Yinger replied, as if she was immersed in her acting. Luck is also a part of strength. At this moment, Lu Renfeng opened the mechanism in the restricted laboratory and took out a scalpel that was glowing with a faint blue light. Tell me, do you have any unfulfilled wishes? As long as I can do it, I'll fulfill them for you. Can I really? Sun Yinger's expression grew more and more excited. Yes. Lu Renfeng nodded and smiled. If I open the infinite realm and empty all the materials in it, I'll become the richest person on earth. As long as I have money, there's nothing I can't do. Then help me kill someone. Sun Yinger asked. Then can you help me kill someone? Sun Yinger asked. She didn't expect this to be Zhang Yingying's wish. However, such a simple wish was exactly what she wanted. She, the chick phoenix, had killed countless people. Killing one person was too easy for her. Moreover, Zhang Yingying was only a 16-year-old girl. How could a 16-year-old high school student know a big shot? You don't want me to kill your grandfather, do you? Martial Sage Zhang? Lu Renfeng gripped the scalpel and suddenly laughed evilly. It's not impossible, although it's difficult. But I can still do it. No. Why would I kill my grandfather? The person I want to kill is someone who bullied me. Sun Yinger said. Not Martial Sage Zhang? That's a pity. But since it's your wish, I'll fulfill it for you. It's fate that brought us together. Lu Renfeng blinked, her expression terrifying. Tell me, what's that person's name? Where does he live? His name is Wang Ying. Wang as in Wang Ba. Ying as in Ying. He lives in a villa on East Huang Road. Sun Yinger blurted out the address of the Wang family's small villa. Got it. Lu Renfeng nodded and smiled. After I take out your spirit root, I'll take out your brain tissue and preserve it. Why do I have to take out his brain tissue? Of course, when I bring him to you. Don't you want to witness his death with your own eyes? As long as I connect your brain tissue to a visual sensor, you'll be able to see it with your own eyes. When the time comes, he'll kneel in front of you like a dying dog, begging for mercy. Lotus Sun and Sun Yinger. At that moment, Lu Renfeng laughed sinisterly. It'll definitely be a wonderful sight. Lotus Sun and Sun Yinger. Hearing this, Sun Yinger couldn't help shuddering. Sure enough, the madwoman in front of him was a serious pervert. Perhaps when Lu Renfeng said this, she didn't realize that danger had already descended. To be honest, Wang Ying really hadn't wanted to come. Lying on Wang Ling's bed with his eyes closed, he had been spying on what was going on here. He had wanted to see Sun Yinger's embarrassed expression as she let herself be trampled upon. But he hadn't expected to hear Lu Renfeng's arrogant words. Considering that so many people had already made a move, he hadn't made a move out of consideration for the balance of power. Young people still had to talk about martial ethics. But now, he was going back on his word. Lu Renfeng. Must die. Young people, talk about martial ethics my ass. Just as Lu Renfeng was about to cut down, a hand suddenly pressed down on Madame Phoenix's shoulder. From Sun Yinger's point of view, she couldn't see the murderous face of the youngster standing behind Lu Renfeng at that moment. However, she recognized that hand at first glance. It was Wang Ying's. Chapter 1633. A very powerful aura. The moment Wang Ying's palm came down, Lu Renfeng couldn't stop the cold sweat from dripping down her forehead. "Who are you?" The chief of the intelligence department behind her was startled. Wang Ying had appeared too suddenly, like a ghost. He wanted to fight back in an attempt to protect Lu Renfeng, but his body was frozen in place. This wasn't because Wang Ying had used some kind of body immobilizing spell, but because he was trembling from the depths of his soul. The huge gap in battle strength made Hang Chuan feel as if his blood had frozen in that short instant. Then his body began to tremble, and he gradually stopped thinking. Wang Ying couldn't even be bothered with this small fry. He only wanted to get back at Lu Renfeng, so he pinched her shoulder like he was pinching a little chick. "Old woman, how do you want to die? How did you get in?" Lu Renfeng's face was pale. She had the highest authority in the restricted area of the lab, and there were barriers everywhere. Ordinary cultivators couldn't get in, whether by going through walls, shrinking, or teleporting. Wang Ying's sudden appearance had terrified her. What she didn't know was that there was a chain between shadows. Sun Yinger's body had already been imprinted by Wang Ying, so no matter where she went, Wang Ying would know it clearly. "How did I get in? Can't I enter this lousy place whenever I want?" Wang Ying snorted. Without any superfluous words, the next moment, he reached out and grabbed Lu Renfeng's head. There was a crack. Lu Renfeng's head was crushed in an instant, like a rotten orange that had burst open. "Ah, this, Xiaofan, how did you kill her?" Lotus Sun was also sweating profusely. She hadn't expected the battle to be over before it had even started. Meanwhile, the rest of the people in Phoenix's lab hadn't expected this either. The Allied army hadn't surrounded them yet, but Wang Ying had actually charged in and set the crystal on fire. Young man. He really didn't care about martial ethics. This kind of damned old woman deserves to die. Wang Ying snorted. Also, she's very cunning. I didn't kill her. This should be a fake body. Fake body. Lotus Sun was puzzled. But it really isn't that different from the real body. With that, Wang Ying reached out and tore off Lu Renfeng's right leg on the spot. Lotus Sun hurriedly covered her eyes. The result was unexpected. After the seemingly violent movement of removing the leg, there was not a single drop of blood, only the sound of various gears falling to the ground. The right leg had been torn apart by Wang Ying, and the catheter connected to it had been instantly torn apart, dripping orange mucus. This is... Lotus Sun was puzzled. It's the androids, Wang Ying said, holding her chin. He checked Lu Renfeng's leg that had been torn off and saw the number 010 written on it. It was also the first time he had seen androids. To be honest, Lu Renfeng's technological means also shocked Wang Ying. If he hadn't reached out and touched Lu Renfeng's body, he wouldn't have thought that this Lu Renfeng was fake. Based on her aura alone, number 010 Lu Renfeng was no different from an ordinary human. This was different from the head of state 001 humanoid combat robot that Wang Ming was developing. The combat robot was made up of all kinds of spare parts. It was a pure mechanical type magic treasure. No matter how realistic its appearance was, it could still be seen at a glance. But Lu Renfeng's android technology had the technical ability to pass off the fake as the real thing. Sun Yinger got up from the operating table timidly. She didn't care about what was happening at all, but was afraid of Wang Ying. Her conversation with Lu Renfeng just now was in fact a way to kill with a borrowed knife. She had initially just wanted to test whether Wang Ying was spying on them. It was just that she hadn't expected this man to actually show up after this test. Don't hit me, oh, Sun Yinger shrank back in fear. Wang Ying's lips curled up, and he strode forward to pinch the girl's cheek with one hand. Heh, I'll deal with you later. After saying that, he abruptly lowered his head and swiftly planted a kiss on the girl's soft lips. Sun Yinger's mind went blank with this kiss. At the same time, the person whose mind went blank with Sun Yinger was none other than Lotus Sunday. She felt as if her head had been struck by an earth-shattering blow, and she suddenly felt as if she had been struck by a violent blow. Young people nowadays weren't just unethical in martial arts. They were also unethical in kissing. When she quickly came back to her senses, her cheeks were red. The main thing was that Sun Yinger and Wang Ying were very similar to her, and Wang Ying's overbearing kiss gave Lotus Sun the illusion that it was Wang Ling kissing her for a brief moment. Her cheeks instantly turned red, and she felt as if a fire had been lit on her face, which instantly burned all the way to her ears. This Lu Renfeng is fake. And now, our first task is to ferret out the real one. It was still Wang Ying who broke the silence first. Looking at her burning face, he couldn't help laughing. Hey Miss Sun, don't think so much. It's better to act than to be moved, and you won't be able to wait. It's better for you to take the initiative and directly kiss him. How can I do that? Lotus Sun's face turned even redder. Do I need to get permission to like someone? Wang Ying laughed. Think about it yourself. Lotus Sun. To be honest, it wasn't that Lotus Sun hadn't thought about taking the initiative to kiss Prince Ling, but she had always felt that it would be too difficult. Kissing was all about the atmosphere. As long as the atmosphere was right, it would naturally come. If she just pounced on him and bit him, she would definitely be labeled a crazy girl. In fact, Lotus Sun was mainly worried that Wang Ling would hate her. It hadn't been easy for her to get closer to Wang Ling, and she didn't want her excessive and unnecessary actions to cause their relationship to drift apart again. Kissing. Especially kissing Wang Ling. Of course, this was what she had been looking forward to all along. But there were times when everything went according to plan. In particular, Jean Deng had reminded her that patience was the key to dealing with Wang Ling. She didn't know what would happen if she became impatient. Lotus Sun didn't even dare think about the consequences of that. Because she knew that she couldn't bear it at all. She liked that person, but in the end, they couldn't even be friends. At that moment, a piercing alarm suddenly rang out throughout the restricted laboratory. Wang Ying judged that this was the alarm response after Lu Renfeng number 010 had been crushed. Less than 10 seconds after the alarm went off, all the hidden mechanisms in the entire restricted laboratory were activated. A whole bunch of new Lu Renfeng were pushed out of the capsule. Chapter 1634. A large number of Lu Renfeng cyborgs poured out from every corner of the forbidden laboratory. As if they had been prepared beforehand, they appeared in the corridors and filled them up like sardines, like a subway during the morning rush hour. Wang Ying raised an arm and grabbed a Lu Renfeng's throat from a distance, then gently squeezed her hand. In an instant, the heads of these cyborgs rolled to the ground like watermelons. Then, these dead cyborgs were quickly replaced by new cyborgs. They had the same faces as Lu Renfeng, but they didn't have the slightest emotion. Seeing their companions fall to the ground, the surviving cyborgs around them would pick up the broken parts and throw them into the recycling tunnels of the forbidden laboratory. Wang Ying didn't know how many doppelgangers the real Lu Renfeng had created for herself, but judging from the wave after wave, there were definitely tens of thousands of them. Sun Yinger, how many did this crazy woman create for herself? Wang Ying. It seems that this woman has an emergency plan. It's possible that she wants to open the door to the infinite secret realm from the front. But I heard earlier that it won't be easy to open the entrance to this secret realm. It requires a large amount of spirit energy, Lotus Sun said. Indeed, there aren't many people who can open the entrance to this secret realm on their own. At that moment, Wang Ying thought of something. But it's different if there are many of them. I think it's better to report this to Battle Sect as soon as possible. Let's not get involved in what happens next. Let's just wait for things to end smoothly. He was Wang Ling's shadow, and their minds were connected. Just before he said this, he also knew at the same time that it was the truth. That man was finally ready to make his move. Wang Ying's appearance was a huge surprise for Lu Renfeng. She hadn't expected to be stopped by a youngster who had suddenly appeared just as she was about to open the infinite secret realm. But fortunately, she still had an emergency plan. As long as her original body wasn't found, she hadn't lost this battle yet. In Shou Chong's private laboratory, several cyborgs Lu Renfeng were in complete control. Heh! Junior brother Wulong. Long time no see. Lu Renfeng linked her original body's will to the brain tissue of one of the cyborgs, thus temporarily controlling it. When the androids rushed in, Shouchong realized that the situation was not good. There was an emergency escape button in his laboratory. Just as he was about to press it, one of the androids kicked his abdomen, shattering his dream on the spot. Senior sister, you can't keep making mistakes. Are you willing to call me senior sister now? Lu Renfeng couldn't help but laugh out loud. An artificial spirit root is my lifelong dream. Now that I've obtained this core technology, all I need to do is find the materials in that arcane realm. According to Lu Renfeng's original plan, she had planned to use Jiang Yingying to analyze the key to the infinite arcanum and enter through the back door. But this plan had just been ruined because of Wang Ying. Right now, Lu Renfeng had to activate the emergency plan. That was to break through the concealed zone head-on by using a defensive method. She had been secretly observing Shou Chang's private laboratory for a long time. She also knew that Shou Chang's current plan was to break through from the front. However, it was not easy to open the door of the infinite secret realm. This required a one-time injection of spiritual energy that far exceeded the current level of the cultivators on Earth. Even that senior behind her couldn't provide such an explosive output of spirit power in a short period of time. Senior sister, you should know that you're already surrounded, right? You have nowhere to retreat to. Shou Chang said. Battle sect. And those sky-level sect leaders have already surrounded your laboratory so tightly that not even a drop of water can trickle through. Do you think I'm completely unaware of what's going on outside? At that moment, Lu Renfeng laughed again. As long as my real body hasn't been found, I haven't lost yet. What's more, do you think I didn't anticipate this situation? Wuxia Alliance has been watching me for a long time. It can be said that I expected them to surround my laboratory in the northern suburbs. Of course, if I had to make a mistake, it would be that I really didn't expect so many people to come. That was what she said. But in fact, she was still suppressing a lot of anger in her heart. Because of what had happened outside, including the intelligence department's mistaken capture of Lotus Sunday. She only found out about it after her mental link with number 010 Lu Renfeng had been severed because of Wang Ying. If it hadn't been for Wang Ying, she might still be in the dark. Who knew what this bunch of good-for-nothings in the intelligence department were doing? They could even capture a little girl by mistake. As for the large numbers of the Cultivator Alliance army surrounding the northern suburbs, Lu Renfeng was indeed surprised. But she wasn't flustered at all. Instead, there was a look of excitement on her face that made Shou Chang feel extremely uneasy. It doesn't matter if there are more people. The more people there are, the better it is for me. Lu Renfeng's second plan was to take advantage of Wuxia Alliance's encirclement and suppression to use these cultivators' spirit power to forcibly break through the main entrance to the Infinity Secret Realm. But the second plan actually had its risks. If Wuxia Alliance didn't send enough people, even if she had a way to squeeze these cultivators dry of their spirit power, it might not be enough to pry open the door to the Infinity Secret Realm. But now, she felt that the situation was different. Hundreds of thousands of the Cultivator Alliance army were now surrounding Phoenix Sun's laboratory in the northern suburbs. The ordinary cultivators who had come as reinforcements were at the Golden Core stage at the very least. Not to mention the sky-level sect leaders who were in the circle. Senior sister, don't tell me you want to. At that moment, Shou Chang's expression changed dramatically as he finally realized what on earth Lu Renfeng was up to. He. Lu Renfeng continued to cover her mouth and chuckle through the android. The heavens are truly on my side. In order to rescue that Miss Lotus Sun, they had actually sent so many people without thinking. If the final result of this battle was to go for wool and come home shorn, I think this Wuxia Alliance's prestige will be swept away. At that moment, in the Battle Sect's command center, all the members of the Alliance army participating in this battle had turned into dense red dots on the satellite map on a huge screen. From a commander's point of view, Cone had never commanded such a rich battle in his previous 8 lifetimes. But for such a large number of Alliance soldiers to be placed in his hands alone was a test of his ability to withstand pressure and command. He looked at the blinking light markers on the map and frowned slightly. Dao Monarch, I think something's wrong. Our Alliance army has already formed a dumpling encirclement. But Lu Renfeng's side isn't putting up the slightest resistance. I can't help but feel that there's some kind of conspiracy behind this. As expected of the senior monarch's chosen one. Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch smiled, looking relaxed and content. This Dao Monarch has already discovered it? Cone was speechless. At the end of the day, this Auntie Lu just wanted to enter the secret realm to steal materials. Now her real body is nowhere to be found, and a large number of androids are pouring out of the Forbidden Zone laboratory. There's no point in catching those androids. Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch said, there's a saying, close the door and beat the dog. To use a more cultured term, it's like catching a turtle in a jar. Cone. Dao Monarch, you mean? Crispy Noodles. Dao Monarch smiled. Just let the Alliance army beat them at their own game. Because at that moment, a pretty boy had already entered the infinite secret realm ahead of time. He was waiting at that entrance for Lu Runfeng's real body to come in, of course, in order not to delay his homework. This pretty boy even moved his desk over and wrote while he waited. Chapter 1635. Although he had said that he didn't want to get involved in this matter, he had never thought that in the end, he would still get involved. He really wasn't thinking about any of this. His mind was full of homework, exercises, and the upcoming monthly exam. But he didn't know why. His body started to move involuntarily. He knew that Lu Renfeng had come for the infinite secret realm, so the easiest way to find her real body was to wait for her. Now that the secret realm had finally been opened, her real body would definitely show itself and take a look. Another advantage was that apart from him, there was no one else at the entrance to the secret realm, which would give him a cover to hide his strength and fame. It would be too high profile and troublesome to follow the team to capture Lu Renfeng's real body. It would be better to wait for this crazy grandma to walk right into the trap. Thus, he decided to enter the infinite secret realm right away. But he had heard that it wasn't easy to open the infinite secret realm, and that a huge amount of spirit energy was needed to open the door. For this reason, Shoucheng and Lu Renfeng had racked their brains to find a way to open the infinite secret realm. Wang Ling believed it. He used his king's eye to lock onto the coordinates of the secret realm's entrance. Then, a magnificent gate to the infinite secret realm appeared in front of him. The ancient doorframe was densely covered in abstruse runes that Wang Ling had never seen before. There were too many secret realms in the universe to count. After all, Wang Ling was just a kid, and hadn't visited all of them. In order to explore a secret realm and obtain immortal opportunities to improve their cultivation, ordinary cultivators were all determined to rush in, for fear that if they were one step too late, the treasures in the secret realm would be snatched away by someone else. But Wang Ling was different. He wasn't interested in secret realms, because everything in them could be found in his Wang Zhibao pants. Thus, he didn't know much about the infinite secret realm. He had heard from Shoucheng and Lu Renfeng that it would take a huge amount of spirit power to enter. Faced with the gate to the infinite secret realm, Wang Ling had a serious expression on his face. Then, he rolled up his sleeves and violently pushed the door inward. There was a loud bang. Wang Ling saw the gate to the infinite secret realm collapse with a loud bang. Not only that, even the doorframe was cracked. Sure enough, he had thought too much. He had clearly only used a little bit of his strength. Only the heavens knew that the gate to the mystic realm could not withstand the pressure. Thus, before moving the desk into the entrance of the secret land, he had also used the great repair spell to repair the door that had been torn down so that everything looked so natural. In the Battle Sex Command Center, Wang Ling's "Catch a Turtle in a Jar" was fully deployed under Qion's encrypted instructions. His face was flushed, and there was a tinge of nervousness in his excitement. Large-scale command was a great test of one's ability to command. The Alliance Army's operation this time looked like it had been organized to rescue Lotus Sun, but Wuxia Alliance actually had other considerations. From a 1,000-layer cake perspective, the second layer on Wuxia Alliance's side naturally wanted to capture Lu Renfeng alive. If this crazy grandmother used her creative ability on the right path, she would indeed be a promising talent. Third, Wuxia Alliance wanted to use Battle Sect as a medium to see the ultimate scale and combatability of the Alliance Army. This was purely from the perspective of a cultivation strategic deployment. Wuxia Alliance had always advocated a love of peace. Every year, the profits it generated were used for the construction of cultivation infrastructure, and only a small portion was invested in military defense. The current mainstream view in the cultivation world was that military defense could in fact be replaced in another way. For example, they could unite private sects among the people and turn them into one family. Just like the current Alliance Army. But it would be a little too formal to organize such a large-scale Alliance Army in the name of Wuxia Alliance's people. So at this time, the necessity of Battle Sect's existence manifested itself. When Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had gone to pull in investments back then, Wuxia Alliance had decided to invest because of this consideration. The Sky-level sects had joined together to block the development of the Earth-level and Black-level sects below them. This kind of behavior was very detrimental to the operation and development of private sections. Thus, at this time, A super sect that could surpass sky level was needed to set an example and form an unshakable force in all aspects. In the end, it would become a hemp rope that would tightly link the other sects together. Thus, the overall planning and coordination of sects in the cultivation world was also a subject of study. Of course, for a sect to develop, it definitely wouldn't be enough to rely on funds alone. It also needed a certain amount of talent. Take the Alliance Army this time for example. Through this small-scale Alliance Army battle, the secret mission that Cowan and Crispy Noodles had received was to unearth cultivators who could be used in the cultivation world. Most of these talents were still buried, and their current value could only be discovered by Bo Lu. Once Cowan and Crispy Noodles' Dao Monarch locked onto a candidate, they would only record it down first. Next, it was up to the sect's Ministry of Commerce to communicate and negotiate the transfer of disciples between sections. Nowadays, Battle Sect was rich and overbearing. In theory, as long as they had enough money, there was no one they couldn't negotiate with. Has Mr. Cowan discovered any outstanding seedlings? Crispy Noodles' Dao Monarch asked as he looked at the screen in front of him in front of the command platform. No, not for the time being. Cowan shook his head. Looking at the few cameras that were switching now, it didn't seem like he had taken a fancy to anyone at first glance. The cultivators in the Alliance Army were generally relatively young, and their average realm was at the Golden Core stage. The Golden Core stage actually didn't seem like much of a trick. The most important thing was that although the northern suburb laboratory had been surrounded, the attack order hadn't been issued yet. Without a fight, it was very hard to determine the value of these cultivators. What do you think, Crispy Noodles' Dao Monarch? Cowan asked at that moment. I found one. Crispy Noodles' Dao Monarch's gaze fell on a young cultivator on the screen. After that, the system's smart tracking system directly focused on this person and scanned him accurately. Very quickly, this young cultivator's name appeared on the screen on the right. Heavenly Spring Sect, Li Huaxian. Heavenly Spring Sect? Cowan frowned. This sect's ranking was pretty low. Because it was just a black-level sect. The attack order hasn't been issued yet, and it's very bad for one's mentality. Look at this person, he's neither arrogant nor impetuous, and his face is always indifferent. This state of mind is already very rare, Crispy Noodles' Dao Monarch said. Of course, his words were pure nonsense. Given his eyesight, he could pretty much see through these cultivators with one sweep of his eyes. As Wang Ling's real clone, Crispy Noodles had a natural ability to read people. But this ability couldn't be explained clearly. So he had to find a reason to explain it. In the cultivation world, the most illusory reason was state of mind. At first, it sounded very mysterious, but it also seemed to make some sense. It was like the horoscope and psychological tests on the market. This was also known as the Barnum effect. Chapter 1636. The strategic reserve of talents was something that every sect would do, and the key was whether the two sides of the transaction valued talents enough. There were times when some small sects would let go of a big fish for the sake of temporary benefits. Li Huaxian was a talent personally handpicked by Crispy Noodles' Dao Monarch, so Qion naturally wasn't worried about him in all aspects. However, compared to the other sects, it was not an easy task for the battle sect to poach them. How could a super sect possibly take a fancy to a disciple from a profound sect? If we were to poach him too openly, we would only alert the enemy and tell them that this Li Huaxian is a rare talent and that our war sect is definitely going to have him. This way, Li Huaxian's value would be raised to an extremely high level in a short period of time, and in the end, it would put the war sect in a passive situation. Have you thought about the matter of poaching people, Immortal? I don't think it's easy, Kun said as he stared at Li Huaxian on the screen. Little Silver, Crispy Noodles' Dao Monarch said bluntly. Little Silver? Team leader Ian? Actually, Qion didn't know much about Little Silver. He hadn't been in the battle sect for a long time, so he didn't know many of the sect's elders and disciples. But he did know this, team leader Ian. This was a member of the war sect's core team, and he was in charge of the matters regarding the Spirit Beast group. Furthermore, he knew that this leader Ian had been living at grenade-throwing Senior Immortals Place the entire time before Battle Sect had its own Spirit Beast Peak. Even now, after the completion of the Spirit Beast Peak, it was said that this mysterious and unfathomable team leader Ian still liked to stay at his old place. Leader Ian, can he do it? He always seems very aloof. Kun didn't know Little Silver well, so Crispy Noodles couldn't help laughing when he heard this. Little Silver, aloof? Of course, that did not exist. In the entire battle sect, apart from Ling Zhenren, was there anyone more lively and adorable than Little Silver? Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch admitted that he didn't. The natural affinity of a holy beast was the key to Little Silver's negotiation. Moreover, as the leader of the Spirit Beast group, most of the time he went to other sects, he would be aiming for the Spirit Beast exchange. Basically, it was very difficult for people to think that he was here to poach people. Well, perfected monarch, of course you have your own considerations. Just watch the show, said Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. He counted with his fingers and stared at the screen in front of him. It should be about time. Lu Renfeng would probably be tempted. The underground passageways of Phoenix's laboratory extended in all directions. Lu Renfeng's original purpose in designing this was to establish an encrypted passageway into the underground, and it was also out of consideration for the layout of Plan Number 2. These underground tunnels extended for a very long distance. At this moment, all the android Lu Renfeng came out in full force, each carrying a spirit stone and an array flag. Both Li Xian and Zhang Ziden cast invisibility spells on themselves and looked down from the sky. He could clearly see the layout of the androids after Lu Renfeng passed through various secret passages. The outermost layer of this secret passage was a very standard circle. Without even looking, one could tell that it was an array disk. It was just that Lu Renfeng would not be able to set up such a large array formation with her own strength. Energy formation of all illumination? Li Xian carefully observed the layout and details of the formation, and soon associated it with the origin of this formation. This was a spirit-gathering formation that could absorb the spirit energy of all the cultivators inside it, and was divided into two types: voluntary contribution and forced extraction. If a cultivator standing inside the formation voluntarily contributed, he only needed to raise his hands above his head. But Lu Renfeng obviously wouldn't do that. In order to open the infinite secret realm, she could only force extraction. Looks like it's confirmed. Zhang Ziden said, "This Lu Renfeng really has an ancient brother behind her, but I don't know who this brother is. I remember that the energy formation of all illumination was developed by the Heartless Ancestor, and it said that he only passed it on to his disciples. But the Heartless Ancestor himself is now locked up in the corpse wrapping painting." The corners of Li Xian's mouth twitched, and he said rather helplessly, "And that guy used to say every day that he wanted to take a disciple, but so far I've never heard who his disciple is." Speaking of the Heartless Ancestor, he was also an all-powerful powerhouse in ancient times. But unfortunately, the Heartless Ancestor had a small problem, and that was that he was very stingy. There was a banquet where the Heartless Ancestor invited everyone, including Dao Ancestor Wang. In order to save money, he bought a lot of fake wine from a wine merchant and only let Dao Ancestor Wang drink the real wine. In the end, Dao Ancestor Wang's wine gourd was somehow switched at the banquet. Then there were only 5 sounds of dun, 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 and the gourd of fake wine was drunk by Dao Ancestor Wang. And then there was no and then. Dao Ancestor Wang, who had drunk the fake wine, put the Heartless Ancestor and the wine merchant into the corpse wrapping painting on the spot. Looking back at that period of history, Li Xian couldn't help but sigh. Why did you provoke such a good person? At this moment, there was a sudden exclamation on the battlefield in the northern suburbs, which had been silent for a long time. What's this? Some cultivators noticed that something was wrong, and the expressions on the faces of those sky-level sect masters all looked terrified. It's a big formation. A big formation that can cover the northern suburbs. What? How could Lu Renfeng have the ability to set up such a big formation? Each and every one of them looked panic-stricken, which stupefied Keone in the command center. Because this was all within the scope of the plan. In the end, he hadn't expected these sky-level sect masters and their disciples to be so good at acting. At that moment, each and every one of them contributed their outstanding acting skills to the fullest. My spirit energy is being sucked out. No, I can feel my life slipping away. The cultivators trapped in the formation cried out one after another, their expressions as if they were about to die. In fact, their spirit energy hadn't been sucked out. The spirit energy that Lu Renfeng had absorbed had all been provided by Wang Ling. At that moment, he was crouching at the entrance to the secret land. As he read the exercises in front of him, he raised both hands to transmit his spirit energy over. It's done. Lu Renfeng, who was guarding the lab, looked pleasantly surprised through the android. The amount of spirit energy that the array had absorbed was too much. It was far beyond his imagination. Ha 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 ha. She couldn't stop laughing wildly. I never thought that I, Lu Renfeng, would actually succeed. The cultivation world will soon welcome a new generation of phoenix chicks. That will be the beginning of a new era for me. Lu Renfeng. As soon as his voice fell, the controlled android quickly regained its silence. It looked like Lu Renfeng had already withdrawn the mental link with her real body and was ready to act on her own. Shou Chong was pressed down on the ground by several androids and couldn't move. At that moment, all his hopes were dashed, and he only felt that the situation was hopeless. Bzzzt. There was a bang. When the entrance to the secret land opened at the location which Lu Renfeng had set in advance, this crazy woman rubbed her hands together and couldn't hide the excitement on her face as she stepped in. She thought that when she opened the door, she would see a dazzling new world. In the end, what she saw was a teenager doing homework at a desk. Lu Renfeng laughed. I never thought that there would be a doorman in this infinite secret land. At that moment, Wang Ling raised his head to look at her. After confirming that this was Lu Renfeng's real body, he used just one look to firmly block the door to the secret land behind Lu Renfeng. In that instant, a terrifying pressure extinguished all of Lu Renfeng's excitement. Wait. This situation didn't seem right. Chapter 1637. The truth was that Wang Ling wasn't in a hurry to exert pressure on her. He just raised his gaze to meet Lu Renfeng's indifferent gaze. In that moment, this young Madame Phoenix's mind instantly went blank. She was so shocked that she couldn't speak. She didn't understand what was happening in front of her. She felt as if she had stepped into an abyss the moment she stepped into the mystic realm. She was clearly being stared at by a young man who looked like a high school student. How could she, Madame Phoenix, feel fear? Lu Renfeng couldn't believe what she was seeing. She had chased after the infinite mystic realm for far too long. Now that she had finally made it in, her path was blocked by a young man. Lu Renfeng could not accept this fact no matter what. I will never kill those boys who are good-looking. Lu Renfeng stared at the pressure and said. As she spoke, she deliberately avoided Wang Ling's gaze. That was the only way she could be a little more normal. Although at this moment, her body was still trembling uncontrollably. Wang Ling could see that Lu Renfeng actually had a backup plan. As a well-known underground scientist both at home and abroad, Madame Phoenix definitely wasn't unprepared for the fact that she dared to appear in her true form. Battle Sect and Wuxia Alliance's request was to capture Lu Renfeng alive, so Wang Ling naturally had to be careful not to go overboard. If he killed her, it wouldn't be easy to clean up the mess. Thus, Wang Ling continued to stare at Lu Renfeng, intending to watch the ants dance and see what on earth Lu Renfeng would perform next. Child, I only need the materials in this mystic realm. With these materials and my skills, I can become the richest person in the world. At this moment, Lu Renfeng's tone changed, and she actually began to walk the gentle path. If you don't stop me, I can guarantee you a luxurious life for the rest of your life. You look young, so there should be a lot of things you want to buy, right? If possible, Lu Renfeng also hoped that they wouldn't start a fight here. She didn't know Wang Ling's background, nor did she know how he had come to this infinite secret realm. But one thing was certain. Wang Ling was very young. On Lu Renfeng, there was an AI intelligent analysis system in her body. While Lu Renfeng and Wang Ling were talking, she had already scanned Wang Ling's face and found the corresponding answer from the big data in the National Treasury. Although he did not know why the photo was a bunch of mosaics, however, the information indeed showed that the young man in front of him was only at the foundation establishment stage. Of course, Lu Renfeng was well aware that Wang Ling was probably hiding his true realm. Otherwise, why would he make her feel so oppressed? How interesting. He's just a 16-year-old boy, but he actually has the battle prowess of a soul formation cultivator? After the initial panic, Lu Renfeng, who had obtained the data, revealed a hint of excitement in her heart. A 16-year-old youth with the combat power of a soul formation cultivator, if this matter were to be spread, it would definitely cause an uproar in the world. However, she was not prepared to reveal this matter. Instead, he came up with a new plan. If she could trick Wang Ling, or defeat him here, Wang Ling wouldn't be able to escape. Then, she would cut open Wang Ling's stomach and take out his spirit root for research. Finally, She would use the core technology of artificial spirit root to replicate it. Then, soon, she would have an army of soul formation stage cultivators in her hands. The more Lu Renfeng thought about it, the more excited she became. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up crazily. Therefore, after a short period of consideration, she changed her previous offensive strategy and decided to use the temptation of benefits to see if she could make a breakthrough. Because after her AI analysis, she was sure that Wang Ling was indeed only 16 years old. Although there were countless elixirs and magic treasures for beauty enhancement in the cultivation world nowadays, the rising sun qi that belonged to a young man couldn't be deceived. The older a cultivator was, the less rising sun qi they had. This was a special way of distinguishing between young cultivators. Even though he was a genius at the soul formation stage, he was only 16 years old in the end. She felt that given Wang Ling's state of mind, he might not be able to withstand the temptation of this colorful world. Child, I'm old enough to be your grandmother, so I really don't want to fight you. With you. Lu Renfeng smiled and said, you should have a lot of things you want to buy, right? No matter what kind of magic treasure or luxury goods you like, as long as you like them, I can buy them for you. Apart from these, real estate, cars, toys, beautiful women. If you're willing to cooperate with me, you can choose whatever you want. There are also countless snacks. Hearing the word snacks, Wang Ling blinked. A drop of cold sweat trickled down his cheek as he cursed in his heart. He had actually been a little shaken just now. But very quickly, Wang Ling regained his composure. Fortunately, he always had a poker face, so even if Lu Renfeng used her smart qi to directly scan and analyze his face, she wouldn't be able to detect any subtle changes. Because of Wang Ling's long silence, the situation was once again at an impasse. He's not going to accept these temptations. Lu Renfeng also felt that it was inconceivable. She hadn't expected Wang Ling's Dao heart to be so stable. However, in a situation where she couldn't tempt him, she only had one last option left. Lu Renfeng didn't know where on earth Wang Ling had come from. But if a mere soul formation cultivator wanted to stop her, he was looking down on her, the young Madame Phoenix, too much. Since negotiations have failed, Grandma has no other choice. You're my grandson, so Grandma will try to be as gentle as possible when I make a move. Wang Ling. While she was speaking, Lu Renfeng stretched out her hand, and a light condensed in her palm. Wang Ling noticed that Lu Renfeng had a special ring on her finger. This was a spatial magic treasure that used space folding techniques. Unlike those storage rings, this ring could transfer items from a designated space to another space through a folding technique. And then, BZZT. The instant the light from the ring spread out, the space that resonated with it actually formed vortex wormholes in the walls of the void. In a short period of time, countless mechanical crawlers poured out of the wormholes. These mechanical crawlers swarmed out of space like locusts, spreading their mechanical wings and flying in the air. After Lu Renfeng clapped her hands, the mechanical crawlers instantly spread out and took root in the ground like dense raindrops. Magic bean soldiers, Lu Renfeng said calmly. Wang Ling saw these mechanical crawlers actually take root and sprout in this short period of time. In just a few seconds, this young Madame Phoenix swiftly summoned countless Lu Renfengs from the ground with the bean soldier's technique. Wang Ling could only estimate the number. At that moment, there were no less than 300,000 artificial humans gathered in the secret land. But no matter how many there were, they were just a bunch of scrap metal in Wang Ling's eyes. Seeing that Wang Ling's expression was still calm, Lu Renfeng couldn't help saying at that moment, I know that my artificial humans might not be able to deal with you. But if everyone's strength can be combined, that's a different story. As soon as Lu Renfeng said this, she stretched out her hand and gently squeezed. Wang Ling saw these artificial humans actually start to transform on the spot. Holding each other's hands, they swiftly linked together and merged into one, actually transforming into an incomparably huge red mecha armor. Lu Renfeng's real body was already sitting inside this 50-meter-tall mecha armor during this transformation process. This Fire Phoenix mecha armor was Lu Renfeng's proudest creation. Using artificial spirit roots as a medium, the mecha's attributes would be amplified by 300,000 times. That was to say, as long as she sat in this mecha armor, even grenade-throwing senior immortal, who was currently the strongest person on Earth and had reached the true venerated level, wouldn't be her match. On the other side, after hearing Lu Renfeng's thoughts, Wang Ling couldn't help sighing in his heart. He had never expected this young Madame Phoenix to actually compare herself to grenade-throwing senior immortal. After all, for him, grenade-throwing senior immortal was just a unit of combat strength. At that moment, the huge Fire Phoenix mecha armor blotted out the sky and covered Wang Ling like a boundless shadow. In the face of this mountain-like mecha armor, Wang Ling's mind suddenly went blank. It wasn't that he was afraid. It was that he didn't know where on earth he should start. Chapter 1638. In the space of a few breaths, Lu Renfeng had used the so-called Bean Soldiers method to assemble such a large army of androids, and in the blink of an eye, they had swiftly assembled into this 50-meter-tall mecha armor in front of Wang Ling. It wasn't hard for Wang Ling to see that Lu Renfeng had clearly been preparing for today's event for a long time. It was almost impossible to mass-produce androids of this scale in a short period of time, and it would take time. On the other hand, these androids weren't cheap. Given Lu Renfeng's accumulated foundation, Wang Ling felt that it would be very difficult for her to produce androids of this scale without the help of someone else. This was a woman who was afraid of poverty. Her words were filled with the evil flavor of capitalism. Wang Ling could see that Lu Renfeng wanted to use this to turn things around. With the almost inexhaustible resources in Infinite Secret Realm, she would be able to build her own army of androids, and then vigorously develop an industrial chain for artificial spirit roots, which would go down in the annals of modern cultivation history. At that moment, Wang Ling sighed silently in his heart. It was a pity that this young Madame Phoenix had run into him. It was one thing for her to make some money, but Wang Ling didn't quite understand why some people just had to provoke him. In the air, Lu Renfeng's real body was linked to the Fire Phoenix mecha armor's spiritual will. She didn't need to use any buttons to control it. She just needed to place both hands on the special psychic pilot seat, and she could control it as one. The massive Fire Phoenix mecha armor was a little more agile than Wang Ling had imagined. In the sky above the primeval forest of Infinite Secret Realm, the melodious sound of a subwoofer cannon came from the Fire Phoenix mecha armor. Rather than calling it a song, it would be more accurate to call it a low and deep phoenix cry. Then, two projectile blades more than 10 meters wide popped out from the back of the mecha armor's arms. Accompanied by the subwoofer cannon's song, the fiery red projectile blades were covered in a layer of red spirit light. This was a combination spell that combined sound waves with a magical effect, and was similar to the roar of some spirit beasts before a battle. At this particular frequency, apart from being able to produce a magical effect, it could also affect things around the battlefield. Lu Renfeng wanted to capture Wang Ling alive, which was why she had used this method. Under certain conditions, a phoenix cry of this particular frequency could induce hallucinations. Furthermore, she had already rearranged the frequency of the phoenix cry based on Wang Ling's current realm. He was sure that this was a sound wave that could suppress a soul formation cultivator. But in the face of such a powerful sound wave, Wang Ling's expression didn't change at all. He's not affected at all? Lu Renfeng was astonished. Then, he saw the young man, who was the size of an ant, standing on his tiptoes and ascending over 100 meters into the air before stopping. At the same time, the void changed, and Lu Renfeng saw her surroundings changing rapidly. The battlefield above the primeval jungle of the infinite mystery land was quickly transformed into the endless and deep universe. Lu Renfeng could see the Milky Way and even Earth, which was not far away. This wasn't a universe of the real world, but one that Wang Ling had constructed, and could be said to be a complete replica of the real world's universe. It was because there were no other living beings in this universe. Intrinsic spirit field? Within the fiery phoenix mecha, Lu Renfeng's eyes widened, and she was completely astonished by the boundless universe and the dazzling galaxy before her. She knew about the existence of intrinsic spirit fields. But she didn't know that the place she had been pulled into was the core world, which was even more powerful than an intrinsic spirit field. Although the fiery phoenix mecha was huge, it was as tiny as an ant in the backdrop of the universe. Although she was sitting in the mecha, her brain felt like it had stopped working. It was at this moment that Lu Renfeng realized with a start that Wang Ling's strength might be far beyond what she had imagined. Who the hell are you? Her voice started to tremble, and she started to launch a frenzied attack. In her helpless rage, two enchanted projectile blades shot out at an extremely high speed at the speed of sound to slash at Wang Ling's head. Wang Ling stood motionless on the spot. The two projectile blades attacked from left and right. The moment they struck his head, not even a single hair fell off his head, while the blades had already shattered into pieces. Lu Renfeng hadn't expected to be hit so hard. In her extreme panic, the fiery phoenix mecha fired even more fiercely at Wang Ling from all its outlets. Boom! 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 For a moment, Wang Ling's core world was filled with all kinds of explosions. The fiery phoenix mecha contained folded nano-missiles, which was also a black technology developed by Lu Renfeng. Even the explosive power of a nuclear bomb was only the size of a grain of rice, so the fiery phoenix mecha had a huge reserve of ammunition. Wang Ling didn't want to open the barrier at first, but after all, it wasn't worth it to dirty his school uniform, so he put up a spirit power field for himself. The nano-missiles bombarded the extremely thin barrier without even the slightest crack. Impossible. This is impossible. It was obvious that Lu Renfeng was already a little crazy. She clutched her head with a terrified expression on her face. Then, a dazzling holy light appeared behind Wang Ling. Lu Renfeng. This is... Defeating the other party in the field they were most confident in was Wang Ling's usual method. That god of the grave had thought that he controlled time and space, but he had been locked in a fixed ending forever. He could jump out of time and space, but he couldn't escape the ending that Wang Ling had personally arranged for him. Just like the Lu Renfeng in front of him. Bean soldiers. It was obvious that this was one of Lu Renfeng's proudest skills. In a short period of time, through the combination of nanotechnology and cultivation space folding technology, androids with fleshly bodies were instantly created. In the eyes of other cultivators, this would indeed seem to be quite an incredible thing. At that moment, Wang Ling was standing in his own core world. Immortal holy light radiated from his back as he stood firm, like a god of the universe. Then there was a hum. With Wang Ling as its center, this holy light turned into a circular shock wave, like a huge ripple in the center of the universe, which instantly extended hundreds of millions of light-years away. Then, Lu Renfeng felt this dazzling light gradually dim. As this holy light dissipated, what appeared in front of Lu Renfeng was an incomparably terrifying scene. In front of her, she saw countless Wang Lings surrounding her. These clones that had been born from Wang Ling's body gave off cosmic starlight. Some were formed from meteorites, some were formed from stars, and most of them were formed from dust. Wang Ling's holy light turned all the dust within a radius of hundreds of millions of light-years into himself. This was truly an innumerable number of Wang Ling's Wang Ling. It was impossible for her to tell them apart with the naked eye. Then pa! There was a bang. Wang Ling snapped his fingers. The countless clones scattered like the wind, turning back into the trillions of dust particles in the universe. Lu Renfeng was completely awake with this snap of Wang Ling's fingers. She thoroughly realized that her realm and that of the youngster in front of her weren't in the same dimension at all. Just like that. This underground scientist was the famous young phoenix madam, Lu Renfeng. Her heart was shaken to the core. She stopped thinking. P.S. How many people have stopped thinking already? Everyone, please post your answers directly in this chapter. Those who get it right can contact Big-Faced Cat, the administrator of the book group, for a small red packet. Chapter 1639. Under the double assault of sight and spirit, there was a certain probability that the soul would short-circuit. The fact that this famous underground scientist had stopped thinking and was no longer struggling was a great help in carrying out the plan to capture Wang Ling alive. But Wang Ling somehow felt that things weren't that simple. He raised his hand and carefully used the Great Decomposition spell to slowly disintegrate the Fire Phoenix mecha armor from the outside to expose Lu Renfeng's body, which was hidden inside. At the same time, Wang Ling cast a temporary golden light of adaptation on Lu Renfeng so that her body could withstand all the pressure in space. She was an itinerant immortal, but at this level, she still couldn't fight in space. Of course, it wasn't that Wang Ling hadn't thought about directly digging out her heart, but he was afraid that the impact would be too great and Lu Renfeng would directly disappear. At this moment, Lu Renfeng was still in her original position. She sat there with her eyes wide open. Her expression was frozen in fear, and she looked like she had been petrified. Then, Wang Ling had directly summoned Audiobook here. As expected of Xiaofan. Honestly speaking, Audiobook wasn't surprised by the situation in front of him after he appeared. He had already expected this outcome. I'll leave her to you, Wang Ling said with a nod. Don't worry, Xiaofan. Just leave the aftermath to me. Audiobook cupped his fists in a salute. This wasn't the first time he had been the scapegoat, and he was already very used to it. The only fly in the ointment this time was that Zhou Zi hadn't been able to make a contribution in this battle, Or show his face in front of Wang Ling or something. Audiobook was extremely optimistic about Zhou Zi and was willing to take him in as a disciple, but Wang Ling wouldn't budge, so there was nothing he could do. The man in front of him was no longer the man he used to be. Previously, a crispy noodle snacks annual card had been enough. Bribing him with an annual card now probably wouldn't work. But he didn't show his thoughts in front of Wang Ling, and respectfully sent him off as usual before he stayed behind to deal with Lu Renfeng. Wang Ling shared a portion of the King's Eye's power with Audiobook. One reason was so that Audiobook could freely use the King's Eye's ability to travel freely in various spaces, and the other was to increase his battle strength. Of course, when it came down to it, it would be better for Audiobook to clean up the mess for him. Lu Renfeng had seen Wang Ling's face, so she definitely had to tamper with this part of her memory, and she also had to change things about the core world. This was combat strength that had already surpassed Earth's realm. It would be very strange if Lu Renfeng poured everything out when she woke up. Therefore, in the infinite mystic realm, he revised almost all of Lu Renfeng's memories of the battle just now. After making sure that he did not miss anything, he heaved a sigh of relief. If Lu Renfeng woke up now, the person she had been fighting wouldn't be Wang Ling, but Audiobook. There should be no problem now. Audiobook wiped at his sweat. It wasn't his first time doing this, but he couldn't help feeling a little nervous. Tampering with memories could lead to mental disorder. Wuxia Alliance had ordered Lu Renfeng to be captured alive because they knew that she could still be of use to them. Battle Sect Command Center. The moment Lu Renfeng's real body stepped into the infinite mystic realm, the Alliance army responsible for besieging the base finally blew the horn to attack. The members of the base in Phoenix's underground laboratory, as well as Lu Renfeng's androids, were all stupefied. The spirit energy of these cultivators had clearly been sucked away by the great array just now, but at that moment, each and every one of them actually crawled up from the ground and directly announced that they were going to attack. F***K. So was that an act just now? The members of the underground base all had incredulous looks on their faces. Lu Renfeng's real body was already under control, and the command center was left without a leader. In a split second, the entire underground laboratory that extended in all directions was a mess. Following Qion's intelligent deployment, the large-scale Alliance army surrounded the underground laboratory in an orderly manner. The capture operation lasted for several hours. Finally, he heaved a sigh of relief and collapsed with a tired expression. It's finally over. No, there's actually one last step left, said Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. The last step. Given Lu Renfeng's strength alone, she shouldn't have the guts to take such a risky action, said Crispy Noodles Dao Monarch. Dao Monarch, do you mean that there's another force behind this? Crispy Noodles nodded. It actually wasn't convenient for him to explain too much to Qion, so he could only leave it at that. But you don't have to worry. You did a great job commanding the operation this time. Senior Li Xian and Senior Zhang Zipei can handle the rest. Are they the two new elders? Qion's eyes lit up. He had heard of these two people's names before. Because they had suddenly joined Battle Sect and become elders all at once, a lot of people were curious about their origins. In addition, after Li Xian and Zhang Zipei joined Battle Sect, grenade-throwing Senior Immortal had given them the position of guest elder. It was equivalent to some honorary professors in cultivation universities. It sounded like they were from Battle Sect, but it was in fact just a title. But this name was actually directly hanging out his net worth. This was because Li Xian and Zhang Zipei were currently the only two elders in Battle Sect in name. Their names had been famous in ancient times, but they weren't known in the modern cultivation world. Now that they had become honorary elders all of a sudden, the many speculations undoubtedly deepened the mystery of these two people. While Qion and Crispy Noodles were giving instructions, Li Xian and Zhang Zipei were also looking for traces of the person behind the scenes. Following the lead of the All Things Illuminating Vitality Array, the two of them found some clues based on the layout and technique of the array. Zhang Zizi smiled. Interesting. From the technique, it does seem like the work of that heartless ancestor. If it's him, he indeed has the ability to launch that Thousand Faces spell. But he's clearly already been locked up in the painting. He can only be a pile of bones now, said Li Xian. Zhang Zipei shook his head. Brother, you're being too absolute. Dao Ancestor Wang is indeed terrifyingly powerful, but there are no less than tens of thousands of people locked up in the corpse painting. Hundreds of millions of ancient experts. Can you guarantee that this old thief won't fail miserably in an easy task? It's like an idol star who recently debuted and whose parents are revealed to be old thugs. There are no absolutes in this world. He deceived Tao Ancestor Wang. He's a genius. Li Xian sighed. Zhang Zipei. There's one more thing that makes me certain that he was behind all this. Li Xian. What is it? Zhang Zipei. Remember those ancient divine weapons that the grave god summoned when Ling Zhenren and the grave god fought at the very beginning? Li Xian nodded. Of course I remember. That was the army that the grave god created. In the end, Tao Ancestor's Dharma image creature chased them down, and only a few hundred of them are left from that army of 10 million. Zhang Zipei. When Ling Zhenren synchronized the battle in the inner world just now, I saw Lu Renfeng's Fire Phoenix mecha armor, and felt that it was similar to that ancient divine weapon. Hearing this, Li Xian was shocked. So Ancestor Wuxia was the one who built these ancient divine weapons? Zhang Zipei. He was a famous mechanic in ancient times. Because all the parts on his body could be replaced, and his heart was also a mechanical heart, he got the nickname Wuxia. Li Xian, but how do you know so much, Zhang Zipei, his wife told me. Li Xian, brother Zipei, don't tell me. Zhang Zipei, let bygones be bygones. This old man hasn't been Sea King for many years. Li Xian. Chapter 1640. The name Wuxia was also a well-known figure in ancient times. He was a well-known mechanic and had the nickname of half-divine soldier. In terms of popularity, he was not weaker than Zhang Zidan's reputation. If Wuxia had not been locked up by Tao Ancestor Wang, he would have had black technology far beyond modern cultivation civilization in ancient times. However, the timeline had changed after all. In the corpse wrapping painting, the ancient powerhouses who were locked up by Tao Ancestor Wang were now skeletons, and Wuxia's image was actually very obvious, because no one had gears in their bones. After Zhang Zidan was locked up in the corpse wrapping painting, he found that Wuxia's condition was not very good. As far as he was concerned, Wuxia had always been a relatively open and active person, but after being locked up in the painting, he seemed to be a little autistic. He did not expect Wuxia's ability to withstand pressure to be so poor, so Zhang Zidan did not care too much at that time. After all, not everyone was as shameless as him. But now, combined with many things in front of him, Zhang Zidan was more and more sure of his guess, that the Wuxia ancestor locked in the corpse wrapping painting was definitely not himself. Because everyone knew that he was a half-divine soldier who was imprisoned in the corpse wrapping painting and turned into a skeleton with all kinds of parts on his body. But unexpectedly, these parts in the corpse wrapping painting became the biggest camouflage. As the saying goes, a leaf can blind the eye. Zhang Zidan did not expect that he would be fooled by Wuxia. This half-divine soldier is interesting. Zhang Zidan snickered. But with Tao Ancestor Wang's strength, even if he was deceived at the beginning, he should be able to see it later. Li Xian was puzzled. Tao Ancestor Wang, this old thief, was angry in a moment. After he calmed down, he would not pursue it. Zhang Zidan said, of course, there is another possibility, that is, he left Wuxia outside for another purpose. All this time, Zhang Zizi still held a grudge against Tao Ancestor Wang for sucking all the ancient experts into the corpse wrapping painting without a word. It was reasonable to say that with Tao Ancestor Wang's realm, he wouldn't be so narrow-minded. Moreover, Zhang Zizi felt that the matter with Old God wasn't entirely his fault. He did like other people's wives, but he still respected the other party's wishes. Although he was a playboy, he didn't like to force others to have sex with him. If you can't get it, then use force. From Zhang Zipei's point of view, that was undoubtedly an action that would cause his butt to rot. It was true that he was dissatisfied with Tao Ancestor Wang until now, but this string of actions of Tao Ancestor Wang caused Zhang Ziqin to have no choice but to suspect that perhaps all of this was a trap. Moreover, only that man had the ability to set up a trap. Several minutes later, following the traces of the magic circle, Zhang Zidan and Li Xian approached the location of the North Pole. When they arrived at a certain coordinate, Li Xian suddenly stretched out his hand and pulled Zhang Zipei back. Brother Zipei, be careful. I know. There's a void Dharma realm here. Zhang Zipei stood with his hands clasped behind his back, floating in the void with Li Xian. This was another technique that had been passed down from the ancient times. The essence of the void Dharma realm was in fact a smokescreen, and people with low realms wouldn't be able to sense it so easily. That was to say, someone had set up this barrier in the North Pole and was trying to secretly do something inside. Thus, it was very likely that the entire North Pole had already been transformed, and the vast expanse of icebergs and snow had probably long since been reduced to nothingness. "Should we go take a look?" Li Xian said with a frown. The space inside the Void Dharma realm was completely independent and isolated from the outside world. Once the two of them went in and fell into a trap, they might not be able to return. Li Xian was still hesitant. After all, he and Zhang Ziden were carrying out a mission together. If they failed because they were too rash, some of his points would be deducted, and the loss outweighed the gain. "I've already reported our location to Mr. Zhua. If we can't get out, he'll think of another way." To Li Xian's surprise, Zhang Ziden, who had always been very reckless, was exceptionally cautious at this moment. "Since Brother Ziden has said so, let's go in and take a look. Do you think the Heartless Patriarch is inside?" "Most likely," Zhang Ziden said. It had been a long time since they had arrived on Earth, and the ancient experts were relatively more reclusive. If the Heartless Patriarch had come to Earth from ancient times, he would have chosen this North Pole long ago and taken root here. But this was just Zhang Ziden's guess. Lu Runfeng's incident had been nothing more than a trivial matter to Zhang Ziden. He hadn't expected it to actually involve ancient times, which instantly piqued Zhang Ziden's interest. There were too many mysteries left, and he and Li Xian could only solve them one by one. Was the ancient brother who had set up the array the Heartless Patriarch, who was known as a half-step divine weapon? And what was the Heartless Patriarch's purpose in taking Lu Renfeng as his disciple? These things could only be found out after they stepped into the Void Dharma realm. When Li Xian and Zhang Zizi both stretched out their hands and touched the boundary of the illusory world of nothingness, the two figures instantly disappeared along with a spurt of mist, submerging into it. Zhang Ziden and Li Xian were greatly shocked by the scene in front of them. Because what they saw in the Void Dharma realm was a completely different scene. It was a city built of steel and concrete, shining with all kinds of neon lights, and countless mechanical flying objects hovering in the air in an orderly manner. It was actually another world inside the Void Dharma realm. Li Xian and Zhang Ziden were stupefied and completely speechless. Because the scene in front of them was too cyberpunk, and very much like the online game they had seen Wei Ji play a few days ago. They had just arrived in modern cultivation society and had yet to fully adapt to it. This technology city in front of them, which looked like it had been built completely ahead of time, instantly left them dumbfounded once again. Meanwhile, on the other side, Audiobook received a report from Zhang Ziden. The Void Dharma realm? Although Zhang Ziden and Li Xian were already on the move, Audiobook felt that this was a good opportunity to make a contribution. Of course, it wasn't because he wanted to make a contribution, but mainly because he wanted to help Zhou Zi. Given his current combat strength. Of course, it was mainly because he had the shared ability of the King's Eye. It wasn't a problem at all for him to do whatever he wanted. "How is it? Can your legs move well?" he asked as he looked at Zhou Zi. Zhou Zi's legs had grown very quickly because of the various nutritional supplements that Ryoko Kamiya and Lotus Sun had sent him. "I feel like I can still grow a little taller, but it's no problem for me to move normally." "Brother Zhua," Zhou Zi said. "So, do you want to go out and cultivate with me?" Audiobook smiled. "Ah, but didn't we just resolve the matter with Lu Renfeng?" "It's not about Lu Renfeng, it's about something else," Audiobook said. "And your performance on this mission may have something to do with whether or not you can become my disciple." Zhou Zi was instantly excited. "I'm willing to go." "Good. But you have to stay close to me during the operation," Audiobook said. "Understood." Zhou Zi bared his teeth. At that moment, this naive youngster still didn't know what he was about to see. Audiobook then quickly sent a text message to Lotus Sun to inform her of the matter. The general content was a copy and paste of what Zhang Ziden had said. That was, if he and Zhou Zi didn't come out of the world of nothingness after a while, he would think of a way to rescue them. Done. After confirming that the message had been delivered, Audiobook breathed a slight sigh of relief. Then, he took out 5 sets of long johns from the wardrobe and gave them to Zhou Zi. These were all long johns which Wang Ling had personally enchanted. Furthermore, they were the upgraded version 3.0, so there was no need to hide one's head and limbs in the long johns, and they could still protect the whole body. Wang Ling had given Audiobook a lot of them before, and today, He had taken out all his trump cards. Zhou Zi was alarmed. Brother Zhua, these are, Zhua. They're for you to save your life. After you put them on, even if we separate, no one can hurt you. Zhou Zi was doubtful. These are just long johns, will they work? Zhua laughed. When have I ever lied to you? Zhou Zi. But will we be gone for long? Do we have to bring so many clothes? Zhua. Who told you to change? Put them all on. It's like a nesting doll, understand? Zhou Zi. At that moment, this naive youngster still didn't know that after putting on 5 enchanted layers of long johns, his armor value had already been raised to the maximum. Chapter 1641. Zhua wasn't stupid, and was well aware of how dangerous this illusion world of nothingness was. Zhang Zidi and Li Xianke were both ancient almighties, but even they weren't completely confident before entering, and had even left behind information in advance. It was obvious that this illusion world wasn't as simple as it seemed. There would definitely be danger. If he went by himself, he wouldn't have to worry about anything because of the shared power of the king's eye. However, if he were to bring Zhou Zi along, with Zhou Zi's strength, it would be no different from sending him to his death. However, after putting on 5 layers of version 3.0 long johns, everything had changed. So sometimes, it wasn't because he was afraid of pain that he activated all his defenses. It was also possible that he was wearing too many long johns. Zhua had already told Lotus Sun before setting off with Zhou Zi, but he hadn't revealed this to Kamiya Ryoko, because he didn't have any extra long johns in his inventory. The main thing was that it would be safer for one person to wear the 5 long johns, and it wouldn't be effective if they were worn separately. Most importantly, Kamiya Ryoko didn't like thick clothes, so he didn't tell her about bringing Zhou Zi to cultivate. She only said that she was going out with Zhou Zi and would be back soon. On the other side, Lotus Sun received a text message from Zhua. She actually had no intention of betraying Zhua, but the current situation was a little awkward, because Kamiya Ryoko just so happened to be next to her. Today, she had come to the villa where Kamiya Ryoko lived mainly to discuss buying Wang Ling a birthday present. December 26th. In other words, tomorrow. It was Wang Ling's birthday. Lotus Sun was struggling with what gift to give Wang Ling. In fact, it wasn't just Lotus Sun. The entire battle sect was secretly preparing for a birthday present. If it was just simple crispy noodle snacks, it probably wouldn't be enough to satisfy this crispy noodle maniac's expanding needs. Perhaps other people's gifts weren't so exquisite. But she, apart from the gift, she also wanted to use it to convey her feelings to Wang Ling once again. However, she knew his personality. He would definitely not like a gift that was too flashy. So today, not long after Lu Renfeng's matter came to an end, she found Kamiya Yoshiko to discuss the gift. They hadn't even officially discussed it yet. Just then, Zhua happened to receive a text message. Him again. Why did he always bring him out? You didn't even bring me along. Ryoko Kamiya crossed her arms and complained. Lotus Sun hadn't expected Kamiya Ryoko's eyesight to be so good. She was clearly sitting across from her, and when she glanced at her screen, the text message was written backwards. How could she see it so clearly? Yoshiko, your eyesight is so good. Humph. If your Wang Ling were to send me a text message at this time, you would also be able to see it clearly, said Kamiya Ryoko. Sometimes, girls were more sensitive. This was in fact thanks to the fact that she had sent so many messages to Zhua that whenever the word Zhua appeared anywhere, even if it was written backwards, Ryoko would still be able to recognize it in a second. Ryoko Kamiya's words made Lotus Sun blush to her ears. What do you mean by my royal order? I just realized that you've become bad, Ryoko. Ryoko Kamiya. Is that my royal order? Lotus Sun. Absolutely not. Ryoko Kamiya laughed. I'm just kidding. Look at how nervous you are. I already have him. As she spoke, she stared at the phone screen. But I still don't understand. Why is he so concerned about Zhou Zi? Isn't it just taking him in as a disciple? If he wants to take him in, he can. Because Wang Ling was involved, it was actually quite complicated, and it wasn't convenient for Lotus Sun to talk about it for the time being. After all, as far as Ryoko knew, Wang Ling was still Zhua's disciple. But Lotus Sun felt that it wouldn't be too long before Ryoko learned the truth about Wang Ling's true strength. But in the end, Audiobook would have to come forward and confess this matter to Ryoko. It actually wasn't appropriate for her to come forward herself. At that moment, Lotus Sun sighed silently in her heart. She had asked Ryoko Kamiya out just to discuss the birthday present, but in the end, something else had come up. And now it looked like it would be very troublesome. She could only comfort her. After all, you're going out to cultivate together, and that place might be more dangerous. That's why he didn't bring you along. The more Ryoko thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. But the problem is that this Zhou Zi's realm is about the same as mine. Why can he go? 2 men. Do you think it's possible that they went to some indecent place? No way. Senior Zhua isn't that kind of person, said Lotus Sunday. But I just don't feel at ease. Ryoko had an anxious look on her face as she sighed. You haven't fallen in love yet, so you don't understand. Audiobook and I are just at the beginning of our relationship. It's normal to feel this way. After saying this, Ryoko was slow to realize that her words seemed to stab Lotus Sun's heart, and she hurriedly apologized. Sorry Rong, I didn't mean to. It's fine. Lotus Sun smiled awkwardly. She felt her mouth turn sour, as if she had eaten a lemon slice. Everyone was in love, but it seemed like she was the only one who hadn't found a partner yet. Who knew when that log of wood in the Wang family would blossom? Rong. While Lotus Sun's imagination was running wild, Ryoko suddenly called out to her. Lotus Sun. Ryoko. Let's go together. Lotus Sun, but we'll be in danger. Actually, Lotus Sun wasn't that afraid. She was mainly worried about Ryoko. And if they went together, she was afraid that her current strength would be exposed to Ryoko. Ryoko smiled. It's fine. I have Ghost Talisman. I have 100,000 ghost soldiers at my disposal. Of course, just the 2 of us won't be enough. So we have to get help. Looking for help? Lotus Sun had a bad feeling about this. Then she saw Ryoko quickly compose a text message on her cell phone. Lotus Sun, who are you sending it to? Ryoko. Senior Golden Lamp, of course. Lotus Sun. After a few seconds, Kamiya Ryoko suddenly smiled and said, Yes. Done. Lotus Sun was shocked. Senior Golden Lamp. Agreed? Ryoko. Of course, because I was talking to him about getting rid of demons. I didn't mention anything about the illusory realm of nothingness. Lotus Sun. Ryoko. But Senior Golden Lamp also said that he needed to report this matter to be on the safe side. Then he went to grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. She didn't know why. After hearing Ryoko say this, Lotus Sun suddenly had an ominous premonition. She felt that the illusory realm of nothingness, it seemed very lively. Chapter 1642. When he received Jumiya Ryoko's text message, Jin Deng only needed to pinch his fingers to figure out what on earth had happened. If it had been before, he would definitely have declined if Jumiya Ryoko had come looking for him. But the situation was different now. The monk admired Wang Ling very much, and had become the vice headmaster of No. 60 High School in order to be closer to him. In order to better understand Wang Ling, he had a very good relationship with Audiobook, and now that Jumiya Ryoko was Audiobook's person, he naturally had to agree to this request. In fact, Jin Deng had already noticed the illusory world a long time ago. He could more or less guess who the owner of the illusory world was. So far, the illusory world had been relatively peaceful, and nothing major had happened, so the monk naturally couldn't be bothered to pay attention to it. He had lived in seclusion on Earth for a long time. If it wasn't for his friendship with Wang Ling and the fact that he knew he still had a long way to go to cultivate, he would probably still be in seclusion and living a quiet life as a Zen cultivator. Long periods of immersive seclusion naturally brought with it boundless loneliness. Not everyone could be like the monk, who could repeatedly knock on the wooden fish in one place for thousands of years. For example, in this illusory world. Old guy, you finally can't take it anymore. Jin Deng's face was dark and unruffled. It had already been hundreds of years since he had last quietly entered the illusory world. Now, the technology city built from gear, lights and advanced cosmic alloy had probably already reached a certain scale. It was just that he didn't know how long the city in the illusory world could last after they all went inside. Elsewhere, When Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal received the monk's message, he and Loopy Toad were inspecting Shou Chong's destroyed private laboratory. They had obtained information from Lu Runfeng's laboratory. They had received news that Shou Chong was junior brother Lu Renfeng, so they had rushed here without stopping. In the end, they hadn't expected this online celebrity scientist to have already run away. The entire underground laboratory had been cleaned out. He hadn't taken any of the mechanical equipment with him, but had directly blown them up into flying ash. When the battle sect disciples responsible for the arrest arrived, the scene was already a mess. Everyone, do your best to search. Don't miss a single corner. Carefully sift through the ashes left in every place, said an outer sect disciple of battle sect wearing a white Taoist robe and carrying a large sword on his back. Yes, the rest of the people replied. The emotions of this group of war sect disciples were abnormally high, although they were still outer sect disciples of the war sect. However, there was also a monthly assessment for the outer sect disciples, which was also divided into grades. The disciple with the huge sword on his back was called Claudius. There were 9 copper coins embroidered on his Taoist robe, which proved that he was a level 9 outer sect disciple of the combat faction. According to the sect's reliable rules, as long as an outer sect disciple had 10 copper coins embroidered on them, they would be qualified to participate in the inner sect assessment. He didn't know if it was because Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal was there in person. This great sword disciple also wanted to show the spirit of an outer sect disciple, so he repeated, "I can't hear you." Louder. Yes. The rest of the outer court disciples answered one after another. No. He has no energy at all. But I was already very loud. A disciple retorted in a low voice. In our battle sect, if a 9th-ranked disciple says he can't hear, then he can't hear. The great sword disciple said, "I'll say it again. Search every nook and cranny. Do you understand?" Ming. Very good. Very spirited. Sect leader, the equipment in the lab has already been blown up, and we can't find any relevant data. The only clue we have so far is that the composition of the ash on the wall is very similar to that of the androids. In addition, we haven't found any genetic evidence related to Shou Chong, a sect disciple reported. The composition of the androids? Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal thought for a bit, then snapped his fingers. If he was right, Lu Renfeng had probably sent a team of androids to look for Shou Chong earlier, and it was very likely that they had threatened him. Inferring from the timing, the explosion in the lab had happened after Lu Renfeng had been arrested. This was in fact an excellent opportunity for Shou Chong to escape. But there was one thing that Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal didn't understand. Since Shou Chong and Lu Renfeng, this pair of fellow apprentice brother and sister, couldn't get along, it was impossible for them to work together. For Shou Chong, Lu Renfeng's arrest was probably something to be happy about. He had no reason to run away. But it wasn't impossible to catch Shou Chong now, which was why he had asked Loopy Toad for help. Although this king is good at tracking, you should be able to do it too, right? Loopy Toad said. It's just that I haven't been on a mission with Brother Dog for a long time, and I kind of miss it. Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal smiled. This place was blown up very cleanly and has been specially treated. If it was a few months ago, given this king's strength, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to track him to this extent. But now I can, Loopy Toad said. Tracking sense was a dog's instinct to begin with. Although it had turned from a toad into a dog, it was now getting more and more used to its body. It looked at Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Did you take Shou Chong's personal belongings? A battle sect disciple approached it of his own accord. Elder Dog, we've already prepared everything according to sect leader's instructions. We found these things in the apartment under Shou Chong's name. I don't know if they'll be of any use. These are enough, Loopy Toad said. Also, don't call me Elder Dog. Call me Mr. Second. It somehow felt that Elder Dog sounded like he was cursing. All right, Elder Dog. Then what do you want, Mr. Second? We've collected tissues that have been stained with an unknown liquid, underwear that has been left in the washing machine but hasn't been washed yet and has an unknown yellow stain, a pair of socks that are no longer white and emit the smell of rotten salted fish, and... The disciple answered warmly. Forget it, just bring this bag of things to me, no need to describe them. All right, Mr. Second. Although Loopy Toad could already imagine how disgusting the things in the bag would be just by listening to the description, When it brought its nose closer, it actually felt like it had almost died from the poison. Are all older, single, straight men so sloppy? Loopy Toad was full of disdain. Haha, it depends. This reminds me of Brother Little Silver, said Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Little Silver? What did he do this time? It's like this. Hasn't Brother Silver been obsessed with writing recently? Recently, he wrote a scene where the male and female leads kiss, and was shocked to realize that their first kiss was gone, while his was still there. Loopy Toad. This was indeed a sad story. After memorizing the indescribable smell in the bag, Loopy Toad's fur stood on end. It's done. Now we just need to set out and find him. Yes, thank you, Brother Dog, said Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal. Even if he hides at the ends of the earth, this king will definitely find him. And so, about 10 minutes later, Grenade-throwing Senior Immortal and Loopy Toad appeared at the edge of the illusory world's barrier. Chapter 1643. In the illusory world of nothingness, the huge technology city was clearly divided into two major areas. The core area of the city was the most splendid and brilliant place. Just by looking at the shining golden lights there, one could tell that it was the gathering place of the rich gentry. As long as they had enough money, they could do whatever they wanted inside. When Li Xian and Zhang Zizi entered here, they were in the outermost block. The air of this block was filled with a faint smell of engine oil and flashing neon lights of various colors, which made people feel very unreal. The two used invisibility spells and secretly observed the people living in the illusory world of nothingness. Although they had not fully touched the core area, from the feeling of the outer layer, this illusory world of nothingness did indeed have its own independent civilization. At first glance, they knew that it was the work of the heartless ancestor. Because as far as the two of them could see, the people living here were all half-mechanized human cultivators. Even many shops that sold spiritual tools had all kinds of mechanical limbs and mechanical organ parts hanging in the shops. The only overlap with the real world was that the language was still universal. You've created another world and declared yourself a king? This old guy thinks he's playing in Minecraft? Zhang Zizi snickered. Then, in front of Li Xian, he removed one of his right legs and replaced it with a mechanical limb. Li Xian. Zhang Zizi said, "Don't just stand there, hurry up and remove it." Li Xian, how do I remove it? Zhang Zizi. Don't tell me you haven't learned the disintegration technique? Do you want me to teach you? At our level, don't we just casually remove and replace our eyeballs? Isn't it easy to remove a leg? There are only cyborgs here. If we move in public, we will definitely be suspected. Li Xian. Although Zhang Zizi's words sounded very reasonable, Li Xian really hadn't learned the disintegration technique. However, both of them were big shots at the immemorial level, and their strength was almost the same, so it was not difficult for them to learn a new spell. Zhang Ziyan secretly sighed, and had to pass the incantation of the body dissolution technique to Li Xian's mind step by step. Li Xian studied on the spot for more than 10 minutes before he roughly understood it. Then, he removed one of his legs. He didn't expect that there was such a magical spell that could remove his limbs or organs. How did you learn the disintegration technique? Li Xian asked curiously. Speaking of which, it was old God who taught me. Zhang Zizi snickered. You know, my ability is very strong. As a result, the old goddess couldn't stop thinking about me. So I took off an arm for her and let her use it herself. Li Xian, Zhang Zizi sighed and said, "Fortunately, this arm was taken back before I was locked in the painting by Dao Ancestor Wang. Otherwise, this right arm that has been with me for countless years might have turned into a fossil outside." Li Xian. After putting on the mechanical legs, Li Xian suddenly realized a very serious problem. He looked at Zhang Zipi. "Brother Zipi, where did you get this mechanical leg?" Zhang Zi secretly pointed to a shop selling mechanical limbs in front of them. "I just went to the front for an inspection, so I came here. As soon as I realized that the currency here is different from the currency outside." "That doesn't seem very good, Brother Zipi. You're now the anti-theft squad's consultant. But this is the illusory land of nothingness, so what? I don't care. I have to severely reprimand you for this. Ling Zhenren has repeatedly warned me." Li Xian said seriously and exaggeratedly. After all, he and Zhang Zipi had been the first to be released from the corpse picture by Wang Ling, and he had been promoted to captain, so it was his duty to supervise Zhang Zipi's activities in the modern world. It would be an exaggeration to say that Wang Ling had repeatedly warned him, because those who were familiar with him knew that he usually spoke no more than 15 words. But putting that aside, the act of stealing was definitely not right. This was a problem that had to be corrected. It was the same even in the illusory land of nothingness. Fine, can't I think of a way to buy it? Zhang Zipi was helpless, but he could only comply with Li Xian's stubbornness. There was nothing he could do, because he was also afraid of Wang Ling. That's fine, but you're not allowed to steal money, said Li Xian. Then, at the speed of lightning, Zhang Zipi returned the mechanical legs that had been thrown over to the shop owner. He then directly led Li Xian over and chose to buy the 2 mechanical legs that he had just put back. How much for these 2? The shop owner, who looked like he weighed more than 100 jin, was wild with joy at the sudden big business. He rubbed his iron hands together and beamed. You two sound like foreigners? What, xenophobic? Zhang Zipi raised his eyebrows. Not at all. This shop has always been about the customer first. The shop owner smiled. The 2 mechanical legs that this gentleman has taken a fancy to are new arrivals. Model Beppel 12 Pro, Taigu A. Is it the latest model from the core area? Zhang Zipi asked. Sir, you must be joking. You know, the 10 floors outside the core area are all outer rings, and are actually where the poor live. There's no essential difference. The shop owner said, to tell you the truth, these 2 mechanical legs are indeed obsolete products in the core area for the rich. But here in our outer ring, they're new. So the price? I know. Just name your price. Zhang Zipi glanced at the shop owner and said, these are the last 2 mechanical legs of this model in our shop. The current original market price is 1,098 yuan. For both legs, sir, you only need to pay me 2,000 silver cogs. I'll give you a discount. The shop owner grinned. You can use electronic transactions or gear coins. After the shop owner finished speaking, Li Xian stared at Zhang Zipi's movements. He saw Zhang Zipi touch his left pocket, then the other pockets, and finally, he took out a stack of money that he had never seen before. The shop owner was overjoyed. When he saw Zhang Zipi take out the money without bargaining, he felt like he had killed a big fat sheep today. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage. I look forward to your next visit. Then the 2 left the shop. They found a dark corner and replaced the mechanical legs. Li Xian frowned deeply, still confused. Brother Zipi, where did you get the money from? Zhang Zipi snickered. I don't have money. Of course, it's from the shop owner. Li Xian said. You. Why did you steal his money again? Give it back. Zhang Zipi snickered. Didn't I already give it back? Li Xian said, but our mechanical legs. Zhang Zipi said, what's wrong with the mechanical legs? Aren't these mechanical legs bought with money? I didn't steal them. Look at the shop owner's happy face. He's looking forward to our next visit. Hearing this, Li Xian opened his mouth wide. This genius logic made him speechless for a while. Chapter 1644. In the illusory void, outside the technology city's core area of the 10th ring, mechanical parts were piled up like a mountain. Since they entered the illusory void through different coordinates, the illusory void did not have the same effect. When Audiobook and Zhou Zi passed through the outer barrier, they directly appeared in their current position. There were all kinds of mechanical parts piled up here, and the air was filled with the unpleasant smell of gasoline from broken limbs. As soon as they entered, Audiobook immediately sealed his and Zhou Zi's nose orifices and used the turtle breathing spell to breathe. Zhou Zi was stunned by the scene in front of him. This kind of apocalyptic sci-fi scene would only appear in a sci-fi blockbuster, giving people a surreal feeling. He followed Audiobook past several mechanical hills. Suddenly, a mechanical hand reached out from the gap and grabbed Zhou Zi's trousers. The strength of the stump was not great, but it happened so suddenly that Zhou Zi staggered. In comparison, Audiobook was indeed unperturbed, because he knew very well that nothing here could hurt him. Zhou Zi blushed. Brother Zhua. I'm sorry, You probably haven't gone out to cultivate since you lost your legs, so it's inevitable that you lack some experience. A long time ago, when I went to the secret land with the seniors to cultivate, I was just as frightened. Audhua smiled. These words were his encouragement to Zhou Zi. At the same time, it also made him feel like a master for the first time. He had taken a fancy to Zhou Zi and decided to take him in not only because of Zhou Zi's character, but also because he wanted to find a strong successor for himself. On the other hand, he also wanted to properly experience what it was like to be a Shifu. If he could figure it out, he might be able to understand Wang Ling better. Using the power of the king's eye, Audhua conducted a carpet search from a god's perspective, and a hologram of the entire illusory world appeared in his mind. It turned out that this was a technological city, a cultivation city built on a mechanized foundation. Brother Zhua? What do we do next? Zhou Zi asked. Before coming to the secret realm, he was full of confidence. However, when he really came to a strange new environment, the fear and mystery that stemmed from the unknown made Zhou Zi's mind go blank. He had no idea what he should do. In fact, this problem wasn't limited to Zhou Zi. Most of the newbies in the cultivation world were like this. Under the current systematic model of compulsory cultivation education, unless there was a very special opportunity, no one would be able to attend college. Otherwise, under normal circumstances, the cultivators who had graduated from university would almost never have the experience of exploring a pocket dimension on their own. Most of them would follow the main group and move together under the protection and organization of the instructors of the university. With the advantage in numbers, they naturally wouldn't feel afraid in a different place. Audhua had always thought that, strictly speaking, it wasn't called exploring a secret land. Instead, it was called a spring outing or an autumn outing. On the contrary, the fewer people there were, the more uneasy they would feel. Z, you don't have to be afraid. What you're wearing right now is a very strong defensive equipment. What, you still don't believe me? Audhua laughed. I believe you. As if. Long Johns. How could they be so strong? Zhou Zi scratched his head. Although Audhua had already told him before coming here about the power of Long Johns, Audhua didn't know what to make of them. However, he did not completely believe it. Because it was just too ridiculous. Although he was now wearing 5 layers of long johns and looked fatter, Zhou Zi found it miraculous that he didn't feel uncomfortable at all. These long johns seemed to be able to fit the human body, and also had a temperature control system that could adjust the human body's temperature to the most appropriate state. Such comfortable long johns were soft and intimate, and didn't look hard at all. How could they withstand a fierce attack? This didn't make any sense at all. AI, when it comes in handy later, you'll know how strong these things are, Audhua said. After all, this enchanted Long John's version 3.0 was Wang Ling's handiwork. Who would have thought that enchanted Long Johns would be more than 10 times more powerful than the chaos armor worn by Dao ancestor Wang's Dharma characteristic creature, Du? But now, these 5 Long Johns were stacked together like a doll. Although they made Zhou Zi look like a slightly bloated Michelin tire, Zhou Zi's armor was now fully stacked. No one could hurt him. He wasn't in a hurry. In fact, he had brought Zhou Zi here this time to find an opportunity to help him soar. It was true that this heartless patriarch was an ancient expert. But if Zhou Zi could get rid of this 10,000 ancient rank powerhouse, he felt that he was more than qualified to join his sect. He had won without doing anything for so long, and was well versed in the art of winning without doing anything. It was just that he never thought that there would actually be a day when he would bring along the disciple he wanted to take in and set up a winning scheme for his future disciple. He casually picked up 2 mechanical limbs from the mountain of garbage and used the King's Eye's recovery ability to scan them. Then, Zhou Zi saw the 2 mechanical limbs actually turn into golden particles of light in his hands, which formed a holographic image in the air and then swiftly materialized. This was the King's Eye's Light of Repair, Home Appliance Edition, which was specially used to repair mechanical products. He had just wanted to give it a try, and never thought that it would actually come in handy. In less than 2 seconds, 2 brand new mechanical limbs appeared in Audhua's hands. At that moment, both of them exclaimed in their hearts. Audhua exclaimed in his heart, "So this is what a complete mechanical arm looks like." Zhou Zi exclaimed in his heart, "There's actually this kind of operation." Sensing Zhou Zi's astonished gaze, Audhua couldn't help laughing. "Don't be too surprised, it's just an ordinary technique." After sorting out his thoughts, Zhou Zi said, "Brother Zhua, since these are all semi-mechanical cultivators, shouldn't we also switch to mechanical limbs?" Audhua nodded. "Smart. But given your current realm, You don't have enough spirit energy to use the disintegration spell to replace your limbs. Even if you learn this spell, I'm afraid it won't last more than 10 seconds. Then, what should we do? It's very simple. Just use an illusion spell. The next second, Audhua used the shared King's Eye ability to project the two mechanical arms that he had just restored onto himself and Zhou Zi in the form of an illusion spell. When Zhou Zi saw that his right hand had suddenly turned into a metal mechanical arm, he was completely taken aback. Amazing. It's like I've changed into a new layer of skin. That's foolproof. Audhua cupped his chin and said, but this illusory realm is already another country. I'm guessing that the currency used here is different from what we usually use. Unlike other secret realms, this secret realm had these mechanical native cultivators and its own civilization. Wherever there were people, there would definitely be all kinds of sales and transactions. Furthermore, through the holographic image sent back by the King's Eye, Audhua could also see the dazzling central core area. So the crux of the problem was how to enter this place as legal natives without alerting the enemy. Audhua judged that if they wanted to move around here unimpeded, they would need to have enough money. Thus, at that very moment, facing this huge and sparsely populated parts junkyard in front of him, Audhua discovered an opportunity to strike it rich. Z, go pick up some parts that look like they can still be used, Audhua said. He had the ocular technique of repairing light, home appliance edition, so he could turn waste into treasure and sell it for a profit. Okay. Zhou Zi understood tacitly and could almost immediately guess what Audhua wanted to do. But just as Zhou Zi was about to act, a tall, fair-skinned young man suddenly appeared in front of them. He was dressed in casual clothes and had neat bangs. As he approached them, it was as if they could feel the sunlight radiating from him. Brother, you don't seem to be from here. Audhua frowned. Me? Indeed not. But neither are you. The young man smiled. Who are you? Audhua's eyes darkened. This unknown young man could actually see through the King's Eye's illusion spell? This was inconceivable to him. Sorry, I didn't mean to eavesdrop on you. I also accidentally fell into this secret realm. At that moment, the young man raised his hands lazily in a gesture of surrender. So he had eavesdropped. Audhua breathed a sigh of relief. So I just want to ask, where on earth is this place? I heard you say that it's a secret realm? Have you heard of Beiyan City? I'm from there, the young man said. Beiyan? Audhua was blank. Then, he looked up at the person in front of him. As far as I know, our Wuxia nation doesn't have a city called Beiyan. Wuxia nation? Hearing this, the young man was blank. He rubbed his chin with a thoughtful expression and couldn't help muttering, Oh no! Did I fall into another space? Brother, aren't you going to tell me who you are? It feels very rude, Audhua said warily. He felt that there was something indescribably strange about the young man in front of him. And most importantly, the other party's battle strength wasn't ordinary. The young man hadn't deliberately released his spirit power. But through the King's Eye, Audhua could clearly see that the spirit power in this young man's body was as boundless as the sea. It was almost on par with a Tao god. Then in exchange, after I'm done, I hope you can tell me who you are. The young man smiled warmly and then held out his hand to Audhua. Hearing Zhou Zi call Audhua Brother Zhua earlier, he also said, Hello, Brother Zhua, my name is Qin Zong. Qin as in Chu Tian, Zong as in vertical and horizontal. Qin. Zong. Audhua was stunned by the name. Somehow, he felt that he had heard it somewhere before. At that moment, Audhua still hadn't realized it. This handshake was a historic meeting. Chapter 1645. The shared version of the King's Eye had a lot of abilities, but at the same time, it also had limited permissions. Audhua actually didn't have access to quite a few of the heaven-defying abilities. It wasn't that he was stingy, but that once these abilities were abused or used improperly, they could have a very serious butterfly effect. On the other hand, Audhua actually hadn't reached the level of spirit power required to activate these heaven-defying abilities. He looked at the young man in front of him and felt like he had heard this name before, but he could not quite put his finger on it. Zhou Zi stared at Qin Zong. Although he felt that Qin Zong's sudden appearance was suspicious, he didn't know why he felt that Qin Zong looked especially familiar. What do you think? Do you want to cooperate? From the looks of it, You're planning to sell these wastes, right? Actually, Qin Zong had seen pretty much everything that had happened just now. He knew that Audiobook had the ability to turn trash into treasure, so he immediately offered to cooperate. That depends on how you can help, said Audiobook. TCH, I'm just here to join in the fun. If I can help you, I hope you can help me think of a way to let me go home, Qin Zong replied. It was Qin Zong's first time encountering a space-time disorder after falling into a space-time turbulence. He could basically determine that he had fallen into another space. This was a big problem. With his current realm and strength, he was still unable to correct space-time. Of course, he didn't know whether Audiobook could help him. However, based on past experience, Lin Feng was not a match for Lin Feng. He felt that following Audiobook was definitely the right choice, because he was lucky enough. Otherwise, he wouldn't have heard Audiobook and Zhou discussing a plan in this deserted waste yard as soon as he had fallen out of the space, and he found that he could be of use. Cooperation? After all, we don't know you. I think we should consider it. Audiobook said. He did not reject Qin Zong too much. It was just that he was too unfamiliar with Qin Zong. He did not know what Qin Zong's purpose for appearing here was. Also, if Qin Zong were to join, it might affect Zhou contribution. While he was thinking, Qin Zong crossed his arms and burst out laughing. I'm not a bad guy. If you're worried that I'll steal the credit, you don't have to worry. I'm the best at providing support. It wasn't that Qin Zong had used some mind-reading ability, but that he had made a mental guess purely by analyzing the micro-expressions on Audiobook's face, and then hit the nail on the head by a fluke. Audiobook pursed his lips. It's not impossible for you to cooperate, but you have to follow my plan. Of course, I'll listen to you. Qin Zong nodded. Then you and Z can go pick up scrap, Audiobook ordered. Audiobook hadn't expected a Dao God cultivator to go pick up trash. He thought Qin Zong would be angry, but in the end, Qin Zong seemed to be in an unusually good mood. He did not look like he was picking up trash at all. Instead, he looked like he was looking for treasure. Audiobook was shocked again. He suddenly regretted agreeing to join Qin Zong. Why did he feel like he had dragged a lunatic onto the boat? About a quarter of an hour later, Zhou and Qin Zong returned at the same time. Master, the storage bag is basically full. It looks like it can be used. Zhou said. Basically, he picked up the severed limbs that looked new and didn't have much dust on them. In total, he picked up 100 storage bags, and they were full. After that, he looked at Qin Zong. Then, Brother Qin Zong, how much did you pick up? With a smile on his face, Qin Zong fished out a gray item from his storage pouch. It was giving off a foul smell of engine oil. It looked like a lotus root that had just been unearthed from the mud. Ah, can this be sold for money? Zhou said doubtfully. Qin Zong was very confident in himself, and the smile on his face didn't fade. You'll know when it's repaired. After a while, the three of them took the mechanical arm that Audiobook had repaired with Repair Light. Home appliances addition to a shop that sold and recycled mechanical limbs. Qin Zong glanced at the name of the shop. Boss Pigeon Mechanical Limb Shop, and suddenly felt all sorts of emotions welling up in his heart. As soon as they entered the shop, the chubby shop owner was counting the money in the cabinets and seemed to be muttering something incessantly. He stared at the account book, puzzled no matter how hard he thought about it, and looked distressed. I clearly sold 2,000 yuan worth of goods just now. Why hasn't the cash in this cabinet changed? Did I not learn functions well enough? My maths teacher is clearly still in good health. Boss, do you want to recycle the mechanical arms? Audiobook asked at that moment. The chubby shop owner immediately put down what he was doing, and a smile reappeared on his fierce-looking face. What do the three of you want to sell? Audiobook handed over Zhou's storage bag first. These are 100 mechanical arms of different models. Boss, please appraise them. I hope you can give me a suitable price. If you want to sell them as a package, there's no harm in selling them at a lower price. He had the air of an old man, and didn't have the slightest bit of the guilty conscience of an outsider. The chubby shop owner was blank for a moment, then turned around and poured the mechanical arms in the storage bag into the huge cylindrical machine behind him. BZZT. After the red beam of light scanned for more than 10 seconds, the 100 mechanical arms formed a long list, which was pulled out from the spit at the bottom. As I expected, They're all old models. The chubby shop owner sighed and showed the list to Audiobook. Sir, look, my machine is connected to the internet. Almost 99% of all models of mechanical arms have them, and you'll see them after a scan. He went on and on. The specific model, the year of production, the manufacturer, the price at the time of production, and the current market price. Although this batch of mechanical arms looks especially new, as if they've never been used before, they're only slightly higher than the normal recycling price. For 100 of them, I'll give you 5,000 silver gear coins at most. Only 5,000? Audiobook frowned. It looked like his plan to make a fortune by repairing broken mechanical arms was going to be a little fruitless. He roughly knew that the boss was exaggerating a little, but from a business point of view, there was nothing wrong with him being meticulous with his calculations. Normally, it would definitely be more than 5,000. Perhaps the boss had quoted a little lower, but Audiobook guessed that the difference was only a few thousand yuan. Was he short of a few thousand yuan? He was thinking of directly becoming a nouveau riche by selling mechanical arms here. No matter what, he had to earn 100 million first. So Audiobook couldn't be bothered to haggle, and directly agreed to sell the bag of mechanical arms. The boss straightaway took out 5 1,000 yuan banknotes from the cabinet and handed them to Audiobook. Silver gears were drawn on them, as well as a special anti-counterfeiting seal. The spirit power fluctuations told Audiobook that they weren't fake. Because the workmanship of a fake banknote couldn't be so complicated, and there was even a deliberate anti-counterfeiting seal. Thank you for your patronage. After accepting the sack of mechanical arms, the boss grinned from ear to ear. After selling the difference in price, he had a net profit of around 3,000 silver gear coins. Just then Audiobook said, "Wait, I have more mechanical arms here. Boss, can you see how much they're worth?" "There's more?" The boss's eyes lit up. "How many?" Audiobook stuck out one finger and said with a smile, "1." This was the one that Qin Zong had found, and he had just finished repairing it. Audiobook was a little surprised when he restored the mechanical arm that Qin Zong had dug out, because it was a mechanical arm made of bronze and looked very cumbersome. He didn't understand the value of mechanical arms, and as a pure layman, he also didn't believe that Qin Zong would. This bronze arm clearly didn't look very valuable, but Qin Zong had been brimming with confidence from the very beginning. "Boss, how much is it?" Qin Zong's smile was still as bright as ever. In fact, when Audiobook flashed the bronze arm, the look in the fat boss's eyes instantly changed. Unlike when he had poured the storage bag's worth of mechanical arms into the cylindrical scanner earlier, he took out a single-sided magnifying glass and a strong flashlight from his small drawer, and carefully examined the entire bronze arm. The whole shop was silent for several minutes. The fat boss suddenly cried out in surprise, "That's great! Sparassi! How could this thing be here?" Audiobook and Josie. Audiobook. "Boss, why didn't you put it in the machine to be identified?" The fat boss. "Bronze arms are very rare to begin with. Just like I said before, the back-end library can't scan 1% of the model number." Josie. "Is it because the workmanship is very exquisite?" The fat boss shook his head and exclaimed, "No. Rather than the workmanship, it's better to talk about its collectible value." After saying that, the fat boss instantly realized that things weren't looking good. He had wanted to pretend to be calm and trick this bronze arm out of Audiobook's hands. But after seeing this mechanical arm, he really couldn't restrain his excitement. "If my eyes aren't wrong, this should be the Bdwin 46 Royal Deluxe Limited Edition mechanical arm produced by CJG's Mechanical Arm Factory 1,000 years ago," he said excitedly. "Look! This mechanical arm. It's also engraved with the signatures and seals of over 100 clan heads in the core area. It's carved in small letters. You can only see it clearly with a magnifying glass. After 1,000 years, I'm afraid it's hard to estimate the value of this bronze arm. Brother Qin Zong is so strong." Audiobook and Josie were completely dumbfounded. What the F***K, they had dug up a limited edition. "So boss, you can't make a deal?" Qin Zong asked at that moment. To be honest, it's not that I don't want to buy it. It's that apart from the nouveau riche families in the core area, I'm afraid no shop in the outer ring can buy this bronze arm." The fat boss smiled helplessly and spread his hands. "We're just poor people. If it doesn't work, The three of you can give it a try. Qin Zong cupped his chin and pondered for a moment.
If it was really as the boss said, that this bronze arm could only be recycled in the core area, then it was the same as falling into an endless loop. The purpose of the three of them making money was to use the power of money to buy legal identities from the outer slums and sneak into the depths.
Audiobook and Zhou Zi were silent. They both had a tacit understanding to see what Qin Zong would choose. At that moment, after thinking for a while, Qin Zong raised his head again.
He had a disappointed look on his face, and there was no trace of it being an act at all.
AI, so this treasure is going to fall into my hands?
The fat boss smiled inwardly. He knew that his chance had come.
Actually, if you're willing to sell it, it's not that I can't buy it. But I've already reminded you in advance that given the value of this treasure, it's not worth it to sell it here. Our recycling price is definitely far lower than in the core area. Then how much can the core area open? For them, I think they'll have to give at least 1 million. 1 million silver gear coins? Asked Zhou Zi. No, 1 million gold gear coins. Based on a 1/100 conversion, it's equivalent to 100 million silver gear coins, said the fat boss. Then how much can you give? Asked Qin Zong. Me. I can probably give at most 100,000. And it's silver gear coins, said the fat boss as he scratched his head. That's a little big indeed. Qin Zong laughed. How about this, boss? If you're willing to accept it, I can sell it to you. We've been short on money recently. The fat boss was immediately stupefied, and simply couldn't believe his ears. What? You're willing to sell it to me? But you also know that 100,000 silver gear coins is definitely a small amount. Apart from money, I think you should also give us some subsidies. What do you say?
Qin Zong narrowed his eyes and smiled.
This, the fat boss thought for a bit, then said, how about this? If you're willing to sell it to me, I'll give you the tickets to tonight's underground boxing competition. I've received reliable information tonight that the favorite to win the championship, Jian Xiaochang, is up against that Master Niu Baogua. Tonight, I've received reliable news that one of the favorites for the championship, Jian Xiaochang, is going up against Master Niu Baogua. Grandmaster Niu Baogua will win. If you win, according to the odds, you can get 1 million silver gear coins in one go. Absolute victory? Qin Zong smiled. The match hasn't started yet. I don't believe in rumors. At this time, the fat boss gritted his teeth and decided to use a method that looked like a gamble, but was actually the most profitable for him. How about this? I'll give you 50 lottery chances for free. As you can see, although my shop isn't big, I do have top-notch goods. Whether or not you can get it depends on your luck. As he spoke, he pressed the button on the counter and sealed the door of the shop on the spot. Accompanied by the sound of gears turning, the hidden mechanism display cabinet inside the shop was revealed in front of everyone. This was his collection of mechanical arms, and there were more than 100 of them. These are my trump cards. I don't usually show them to the public. He pointed at his hidden display case and said, the second to last floor above us is Section SS. Most of them were just recently eliminated from the core zone, but they sell for an average of 100,000 silver gear coins here. The next box is Section S, which sells for an average of 50,000 silver gear coins. Section A sells for an average of 10,000 silver gear coins. The rest are B goods worth a few thousand silver coins and C goods worth only a few hundred silver coins.
After saying that, the fat boss turned around and carefully picked up the bronze arm from the cabinet and put it on top of the display cabinet.
All these years, I've always wondered if there were any SSR-grade goods. Zhou Zi and Zhou Zi. So boss, what do you mean? A lottery. As long as you're willing to sell me this bronze arm, I'll let you draw all the mechanical arms in my shop, including the one you sold me. The fat boss said excitedly. There are a lot of small iron balls in that cradle over there. Black is C, gray is B, silver is A, gold is S, purple and gold is SS. And the ones that represent SSR are jade balls. I see. Qin Zong nodded thoughtfully. How about it? Do you dare make a bet with me? If you're fated with this bronze arm, you might be able to draw it back. The fat boss continued to tease Qin Zong into participating in this bet. He looked full of confidence, almost certain that Qin Zong wouldn't be able to draw it if he got carried away. The shop's lottery routine had always been the same. The prizes were very tempting,
but the chances were minuscule. There were 100,000 small balls in his cradle. According to the ratio, most of the balls were gray and black, while there were only 100 silver balls representing A and gold balls representing S, and 10 purple and gold balls representing SS. Of course, the most outrageous was the SSR jade ball that the boss had just decided on a whim. There was only one in 100,000 balls. As he spoke, he deliberately opened the cradle and showed the key jade ball to Qin Zong, Zhou Zi and Qin Zong, then added 2 more into the cradle.
I'll add 2 more for you. Good enough, right? Excuse me, boss. Is there no other alternative? Do I really want to draw a lottery? Qin Zong asked repeatedly to confirm. No. I'm poor, so I can only bet on luck. The fat boss laughed. If you don't sell it, I'll go to another shop and they'll probably let you draw a lottery. Oh, okay. I'll draw. Qin Zong laughed. The fat boss was delighted. You mean? Qin Zong nodded. Yes, I'll sell this bronze arm to you. But if I draw something good, don't go back on your word, boss. The fat boss smiled slyly. Don't worry, we're all serious businessmen. As soon as he said that, the 2 of them sneered in their hearts at the same time. Qin Zong. Heh, this fool. The fat boss. Heh, this fool. With a probability of 3 in 100,000, I'll let you draw 50 times. Can you kill me instantly? Chapter 1646. In less than 10 minutes, the 3 of them had already left Boss Pigeon's shop, fully loaded. The fat boss stood at the door and stared with a dumbfounded expression, feeling like a soulless walking corpse. His shop was completely empty. Qin Zong had taken away everything of value, including the bronze arm which Qin Zong had just sold to Boss Pigeon. The estimated value of this loss had already exceeded 1 million silver gear coins. He had lost so much that he had to go back to his grandmother's house. Zhou Zi, brother Qin Zong, you're amazing. You're actually the first to get a jade ball. Aren't you a little too lucky? Maybe it's not that I'm lucky, but maybe you're the luckier one, Zi. I picked up the bronze arm with you just now after picking up the trash, Qin Zong said very modestly. Actually, he didn't want to go overboard. But who told this boss to compete in the lottery with him in order to scam him out of the bronze arm? When he had drawn the lottery, he had watched the boss's face turn livid little by little. Out of concern for the boss's health, he had straightaway let go and let Zhou Zi and Audiobook help him draw a few more rounds. But unfortunately, his providence radiation was too strong, and it directly caused Zhou Zi and Audiobook's luck to be extremely good. The 3 of them took turns and won one item after another. Nearly 99% of the gray and black balls were drawn, but they didn't win a single one out of 50 times. The mechanism of providence radiation had started a long time ago. As the one and only koi in the cultivation world, Qin Zong's passive ability had already reached the level of precise radiation after constant cultivation. That was to say, as long as Qin Zong subconsciously listed someone as an enemy, even if he was present, the providence radiation wouldn't reach that person. Hence, Boss Pigeon was out of luck. But this also reminded Qin Zong of something else. That was, he now indeed regarded Audiobook and Zhou Zi as his teammates. Strange, it's clearly the first time we've met, but why does it feel so familiar? Qin Zong murmured in his heart. He had also noticed this problem. He felt that there seemed to be some kind of hidden tacit understanding between him, Audiobook and Zhou Zi. This sort of tacit understanding was very wonderful, especially between him and Audiobook. Both of them had this feeling, but they couldn't quite put their finger on it. It was clearly his first time meeting Qin Zong, but he had directly agreed to work with this stranger. This was definitely not his style. Given Audiobook's usual strict attitude, it wasn't his style at all. Unfortunately, this time, it was a special case. Because he felt that Qin Zong was inexplicably familiar, and there was an indescribable sense of intimacy. However, he didn't show it. He still had a cautious look on his face, but he had already let down his guard a little. Let me do some calculations. If we can win tonight's underground fight, we'll have at least 3 million silver gear coins as our starting capital. If we can enter the core area and sell this bronze arm, we can directly become the landlord, Qin Zong said with a smile. Ha, Zizo. Audiobook nodded indifferently. In fact, he was lucky enough to discover this problem as well. Despite Qin Zong's excuse that it was Zhou Zi's good luck, the change in his luck was obvious. Audiobook knew that he had never been a king of luck. Although his current career path wasn't bad, he couldn't be called a true king of luck if he was lucky once in a while. A true king of luck was the kind of person who had especially good luck no matter what they did. Last night, he had spent 648 on 3 orders, but in the end, he had only gotten 3 guarantees. How could he be called a king of luck? As for Zhou Zi, there was no need to even mention him. It was obvious that he hadn't been born with extremely good luck. Otherwise his leg wouldn't have been so tragically amputated when he was young. So based on Audiobook's judgment, the real problem probably lay with Qin Zong. This person. His luck is really a little strangely good. Audiobook sighed sadly in his heart, but he didn't show it, and decided to keep observing him. Brother Zhua, I thought we were already in the same boat after what happened just now. But why are you so hostile towards me? Is it because I didn't do well? Qin Zong folded his arms and looked at Audiobook with a gentle smile. The average girl wouldn't be able to withstand this star face, which looked like a protagonist's smile. Audiobook couldn't help but be glad that he hadn't brought Kyuko Ryoko along. Maybe his wife would have been abducted. Don't think that we're already friends, it's just a purely cooperative relationship. Audiobook's voice was cold and his face was devoid of emotion. He looked angry, but in fact he wasn't, and his heart was even a little calm. In the end, as soon as he showed this attitude, Qin Zong suddenly laughed. I say, Brother Zhua, don't tell me you're a tsundere? Audiobook's eyes widened and his face was filled with horror. Nonsense. I don't know what you're talking about. Hearing this, Zhou Zi couldn't help laughing. In fact, he also felt that it was a little. After all, he had lived with Audiobook for a while and knew very well that he wasn't a tough person, so it was very unnatural for him to suddenly become tough. Of course, given Zhou Zi's clever little brain, how could he not have guessed that Audiobook's cold attitude towards Qin Zong was actually still out of vigilance? But Audiobook's current double talk reminded him of his Shifu Ryoko. He couldn't help exclaiming in his heart, Teske. As expected of a couple. After living together for a period of time, even their personalities had become the same. On the side, Audiobook saw Zhou Zi snickering. Qin Zong knew that he had probably guessed right again with his nonsense. Then he curled his lips. Let's go, I won't talk about this anymore. It'll hurt our friendship. I'll treat you to a drink. He then stretched out his hand to push Audiobook and Zhou Zi's backs, leading them down a path. Audiobook, do you know the way? Don't walk blindly, Qin Zong laughed. I don't know, but it's definitely this way. Audiobook, this kind of self-confidence again. And now, it seemed that Audiobook was starting to understand Qin Zong's self-confidence a little. It was possible that this guy also knew that he was a very lucky person. A providence cultivator? Was there such a person in the world? Audiobook was dumbfounded. After pushing Audiobook and Zhou Zi for a few steps, a very shabby-looking snack bar actually appeared in their line of sight, and the drinks on sale were ones the 3 of them had never seen before. Although the drinks were different, the types were more or less the same, and even the style of marketing activities was similar to that of the outside world. Young man, what do you want to drink? There's been a soda promotion recently. Then let's buy a bottle of soda. Qin Zong nodded, then pointed to a drink that looked very much like Fat Otaku Cola. Audiobook laughed. Aren't you going to treat us? Shouldn't you be spending your own money? Qin Zong nodded. Of course, I'm a man of my word. He then unscrewed the cap of the bottle in front of the boss. The boss pushed up his glasses and squinted to see the words under the cap. One more bottle. Seeing this, the boss also laughed and took the cap. Forget it, young man, you're lucky. You don't have to pay. This bottle is for you. Qin Zong nodded in satisfaction at the expected situation. Then, he reached out and casually took 2 more bottles of soda from the shelf. The boss. You have to pay me 2 silver gear coins, young man. Qin Zong smiled, then unscrewed the caps of these 2 bottles of soda and gave them to the boss. Another 2. 1 more bottle. This. The boss had an incredulous expression on his face. The probability of this 1 more bottle activity was clearly only 1%. But there were actually 3 bottles in a row? Thank you, boss. I wish you a prosperous business. Qin Zong thanked the boss politely. Then, he opened the bottle cap and handed it to Zhou Zi and Audiobook, fulfilling his promise. Audiobook took a sip and savored it carefully. The soda in the slums of the technology city was actually orange-flavored, and he could actually taste like his childhood. He looked at Qin Zong and asked with a smile, "Do you often skip orders like this?" Qin Zong shrugged. "Brother Zhua, you call this skipping orders? I was just a little lucky, that's all." He knew that what he was doing was actually a little unkind, so he gave the boss his blessings before he left. Based on his blessings, the boss of this snack shop should be able to continue breaking records in the next few years. Audiobook, I can see your ability. You were lucky. But why didn't you unscrew the cap after paying? It's very inconvenient to drink without a cap like this. Qin Zong, on one hand, didn't you say that you wouldn't spend our money and wanted me to treat myself? Of course this is the best way. On the other hand, directly opening the cap is actually for the boss's own good. Audiobook and Zhou Zi. Qin Zong sighed. Have you ever experienced what it's like to empty out a supermarket with the money for a bottle of soda? Audiobook and Zhou Zi. Zhou Zi, are we going to the boxing arena next? Qin Zong nodded and smiled brightly. Of course. This is a chance to turn over the money we have in our hands. Audiobook secretly rolled his eyes in his heart. He thought to himself, who's with you? Just as the three of them were about to head to the underground boxing arena, not far away from them, 3 cloaked figures appeared, and one of them was trembling slightly under the cloak. I knew it. I knew it. Jayamiya Ryoko hadn't expected it. She had just found Audiobook when she saw the scene of the 3 people buying drinks from afar. But she wasn't in a hurry to reunite with them. Instead, she chose to follow them secretly. In the end, she saw the scene just now. The pretty boy who had just appeared next to Audiobook had a dubious tone as he kept saying, our money, and the money we have, which made Jayamiya Ryoko feel unwell. Ryoko, calm down, it might not be what you think. Lotus Sun dropped her forehead into her hand. We agreed that we would only bring Z over. It's one thing for him to bring Z, but why is there another man next to him? It was clear that Jayamiya Ryoko was very angry now. It's just a man. You don't understand, Rong Rong. We girls are actually under a lot of pressure. It's not enough to just guard against women. You have to raise your awareness. Tell me, do you think a normal man would unscrew a bottle cap for another man? Audiobook isn't a girl. Why would he do it for him? Doesn't he have his own hands? Jayamiya Ryoko said angrily. And that person just now seemed to have said, our money? What, our money? This Audiobook actually dated a third man outside and didn't tell me. He's even hiding a little stash of money. If he was short of money, he could have asked me. He could have asked for as much as he wanted. It's not like I don't have. Ryoko, calm down first. Lotus Sun didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She felt that Jayamiya Ryoko was really too sensitive. Senior Golden Lamp, please help persuade him. Under the cloak the monk's voice was cold. Monks have long since seen through the world of mortals. Please forgive this poor monk for not being able to understand the love and affection of the secular world. Hearing this, Lotus Sun could only sigh and look at Jayamiya Ryoko to comfort her. Ryoko, don't worry. It's all on your own now. We don't know the specifics yet. I think they were talking about some boxing match just now. Do you want to go and have a look? That's fine. Jayamiya Ryoko nodded. But the currency in this world is a little different from ours. It doesn't seem like we can do without money. We can't enter that kind of place without money, right? Let me think. Lotus Sun was also having a headache in this regard. In fact, she had been thinking about legal ways to make quick money in this world in a short period of time ever since she entered the land of nothingness and discovered that the currency wasn't usable. Just then, Monk Golden Lamp suddenly said, Look, someone seems to be putting up a notice over there. Lotus Sun frowned. It looks like a wanted poster? Wanted poster? Speaking of which, if it's a wanted poster, there should be a bounty, right? Jayamiya Ryoko's eyes lit up. With a wave of excitement, the 3 of them gathered in front of the wanted poster and began to look at it carefully. According to the wanted poster by the police in the technology city, it was a pair of middle-aged men swindling people. They had swindled a shop owner out of 2,000 silver gear coins. But at present, There were only sketches provided according to the victim's description. Since the sketches couldn't be identified through the database, it was suspected that they were unregistered residents or had disguised their faces. Anyone who could provide specific information or clues would be rewarded with 20,000 silver gear coins. P.S. Please help me boost my sales at the end of the year. As Jayamiya Ryoko looked at it, she suddenly felt that the two sketches looked a little familiar. Rongrong, don't you think these two people look a little familiar? Lotus Sun was instantly clear-headed by these words, as if enlightened with wisdom. She was horrified. Wasn't it just a little familiar? This was Li Xian and Zhang Ziki stealing. Chapter 1647. Although Kamiya Ryoko really didn't want to admit it, she indeed felt a little irrational at that moment. When she thought about Odd Joie, she felt like she couldn't think straight anymore. When they arrived at the nearest police station, the three of them stopped in front of it. By establishing a group chat window, Lotus Sun and Kamiya Ryoko realized the telepathic communication between the two girls, ensuring that unrelated people wouldn't hear them. Lotus Sun, Yoshiko, do you really want to go in and report Senior Li Xian and Senior Zhang Zipi? Ryoko sighed. I actually don't want to, especially Senior Li Xian, who is the benefactor of our Ryoko family. However, these are extraordinary times. But have you ever thought about it? Even if we sell out the two seniors, we'll still have to pay the price. With just a few tens of thousands of yuan, I'm afraid the people in this underground boxing arena wouldn't even take a look at it. Under her cloak, Lotus Sun had a helpless expression on her face. Although she didn't understand the rules of the underground boxing arena, however, based on her basic understanding of the circle of the rich and powerful, such a place was opened underground because it could not be brought to the public, and the entry requirements were also very harsh. Otherwise, if he was especially rich, he might be able to make an exception. Just like that, the scene fell into silence again. About a few minutes later, outside the police station, there were two AI service robot police officers carrying a man covered in blood out of an off-road police car on a stretcher. The man's body was covered in blood-stained bandages. His entire right arm had been severed, revealing the wiring inside. It was still emitting a sizzling sound and sparks. Inside the police station, a middle-aged man with a big belly and wearing a coffee-colored windbreaker walked out with a cigar in his mouth. His lower body was very strange. He didn't have legs, but two treads. He looked very much like a human-shaped tank. As soon as the man appeared, the intelligent mechanical police officers in the car saluted him. Chief Daikas. The middle-aged man waved his hand and puffed out a mouthful of smoke. He looked at the man under his eyes with a slightly resentful expression. How many rounds did he last? He made it to the 4th round. Unfortunately, he didn't make it, the robot police replied. Their voices had a kind of electronic sound effect. When they spoke, it felt very comical. However, in the face of a reply, their reaction speed was very shocking. It was as if they were real people. What a pity. Just one more round and he would be able to enter. I'm afraid I can't stay in this restaurant anymore. It's boring. Amidst the middle-aged man's sigh, the buzzing sound of the person on the stretcher disappeared just like that. He had completely breathed his last. On the side, Lotus Sun and Kamiya Ryoko felt uncomfortable watching this. Mysterious C's healing sword chi was only effective on humans, and there was nothing Lotus Sun could do about a cyborg whose body was half mechanical. Why don't you send him to the clinic first? The doctors at the scene have determined that there is no hope. There is a shortage of spare parts in the clinic. If we can't cure him, it will take up resources. How pitiful, the middle-aged man said. Forget it, just send him home. Also, you must pay the compensation as stated in the contract. Understood. Director. Then, 2 robot police officers carried a stretcher and put the poor dead man back into the car. Watching the police car leave, the middle-aged man called Daika suddenly turned to look at Lotus Sun and the other 2. Are you 3 also here to be my fighters? What? Are you so scared that you can't speak after seeing a dead person? He laughed. I'm joking, I don't expect 2 girls to fight for me. The little brother next to them looks soft and tender, and doesn't look like he's a martial artist. The 3 of you are brother and sister? Kamiya Ryoko awkwardly denied it. Not siblings. I'm just curious about the boxing field. I remember that Mr. Jian Xiaoqiang and Mr. Niu Baogua are going to fight tonight, right? The semi-finals are over, right? She tried to worm information out of him.
Unexpectedly, not only did this man called Daikas not find it troublesome, he even thought it was interesting for a girl to ask about such things. He took a puff on his cigar and said slowly, "You women don't understand the fun of the rich and powerful. Before the finals, there is a dojo challenge. You have to challenge a total of 5 rounds to qualify, and then you have to fight last year's dojo challenge champion to warm up before the match. Even the finals aren't as good as this. Because it's a fight for life. Between the two of them, one has to die. That person just now signed a life and death contract with me and was sent over. That person is doing it for his family? In a slum like this, of course it's for his livelihood. If he hadn't stood up to fight for me, I'm afraid he wouldn't have been able to pay off the debt his family owes." Daikas smiled mockingly. "But it's a pity that he's already at the 4th round. If he could break through the 5th round and challenge last year's dojo challenge champion, he would get a full 6 million. He would be able to jump out of this slum in one fell swoop."
6 million? Silver gear coins?
No,
gold gear coins. Daikas's voice grew louder. And it's not just 6 million. There's also a pass to the core area. I made an agreement with that man just now that I'll provide the registration funds and the entire fee. He'll fight for me, and if he wins, he'll get 3 million. The remaining 3 million and the pass are mine."
"I see."
Lotus-san and Kyuya Ryoko nodded. They had a general idea of the situation. And judging from the director's description, this person wasn't too bad. At least he kept his promise with the man on the stretcher. So, the finals are just for the fun of betting among the poor. The Dojo Challenge champion is the most exciting. But last year's Dojo Challenge champion was very strong. I think he's going to make a meteoric rise this year. Because so far, no one has passed the 5th round. If no one is his opponent, he'll have to enter the core area lying down. Then who was last year's Dojo Challenge champion? Lotus-san asked. In fact, last year's Dojo Challenge champion was Mr. Niu Baogua's master, Hu Baogua. Last year, not only did he single-handedly challenge the 5 pass lords arranged by the bigwigs, he also used only one move to kill the Dojo Challenge champion the year before last. One move?
Yes.
One move. It said that when he used it, he was so fast that people couldn't see his movements. By the time they reacted, he'd already hit the ground. Those who saw it at the scene only saw a flash of lightning and thunder.
And this move was also called by him
Lightning 5 consecutive whips.
The more Dekars spoke, the more agitated he became.
The veins on his forehead bulged, and he had to rub his twitching temples. "I'm sorry, I was too agitated and talked too much to you girls. Mr. Director, can I give it a try?" Just then, Ryoko Kyuko took the initiative to step forward. Lotus-san and the monk's eyelids twitched when they heard her request to fight. They hadn't expected Ryoko to do this at all. Of course, Ryoko wasn't just throwing her life away. She had just estimated the realm of that seriously injured man, and felt that he was at the peak late golden core stage. With the ghost talisman on her, she might be qualified to challenge him on her own. At the very least, there was Monk Golden Lamp to vouch for her, so it was very safe.
"You." Daikas laughed.
"A woman shouldn't join in the fun. Although you don't look like one."
Blue veins popped out on Ryoko's forehead.
"What do you mean?"
Daikas chuckled.
"Of course I'm talking about your chest. It's so flat that you're hardly a woman. Don't even think about the dojo challenge." As soon as he said this, he suddenly felt a powerful wave of negative energy in front of him. Ryoko mobilized the power of the ghost talisman and smashed her fist heavily into the ground. In her mind, she imagined Audiobook cheating on her. And with a man at that. Under this double fury, coupled with Daikas's precise lightning strike, Ryoko Kyuko instantly erupted with unparalleled destructive power. Boom! Ryoko smashed a 10-meter deep hole in the ground in front of the police HQ, and the nearby ground cracked as if there was an earthquake. Hiss! Lotus-sun and Monk Golden Lamp sucked in breaths of cold air at this scene. A woman caught in the act of adultery was indeed terrifying, and the most horrified was naturally this director Daikas. After being stunned for less than 3 seconds, his face instantly lit up with delight.
"Ha ha ha ha.
Who would have thought? Even I, Daikas, would make a mistake one day. Miss, I'm sorry for my slip of the tongue just now. I shouldn't have looked down on you and even attacked you. Although, Dekars didn't think that Ryoko Kamiya would grow breasts.
As a man who had seen countless people, he could basically understand this with just one look. Ryoko patted the dust off her hands and looked at Daikas.
There's no need for a life-and-death contract. In any case, I'll definitely win. But after I win, the pass is yours. As for the prize, I want 5 million gold. Interesting. Daikas laughed. Then it's a deal. But there's still less than 5 hours before the finals, which means you'll have to challenge 5 levels in a row. But there's a problem. 5 levels plus the dojo challenge king from last year, right?
Ryoko, am not afraid at all.
So your name is Ryoko.
Daikas rolled his eyes.
How about this? I'll get you a fake identity, and you'll be called Ryoko. No one uses their real names in that underground boxing ring. They all use fake identities to go in. Then can you get one for my junior sister and junior brother? Ryoko Kyuko took the opportunity to ask. Oh, so the two behind you are your junior sister and junior brother? Got it. Since it's Ryoko... Oh no, it's Miss Ryoko's request, I'll definitely do it. Wait for me here. I'll get someone to make new IDs right away. Daikas was so excited that he rushed into the station.
Seeing him leave, Ryoko hurriedly looked back at Golden Lamp, and then at the monk with a pleading look.
Senior, can you help me? Enlighten me?
Golden Lamp. He knew it would be like this. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.